Yes, 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 it is the Cast Worthy podcast, and we are back. I am Big Steve, aka Last of Dying Breed, on the X Machine, formerly known as the Twitter Machine, joined by the VP of Research and EJ, the sophisticated former Savage, who will be reborn soon, I'm sure, as soon as as soon as cuffing season is over. Um, what's up, man? How are you guys doing? It's 2024. First pod of the year, January 7th, right? Or did we pod last week? Last week was the 31st. So, first
Yeah.
pod of the year. How you guys feeling?
I'm good, man.
Feeling
Hanging in.
playoff time. VP's probably very nervous
What you
today.
guys doing?
Very.
What you guys do for the ball drop? Pause.
Nothing, man. I'm old. I think we were in bed by like 10:30. Then you get the light fireworks, so you're like, God damn, man, they already starting. Then the ball drops, and you're like, what the fuck, man? How long are they gonna keep doing this shit? I'm trying to go to sleep.
You
That's
old bitch.
hilarious.
What'd you do, EJ?
I just went over friends' houses, hung out, and drank a little bit, and then went home. That was it. Nothing crazy.
Gone are the days of like when you were like 18, 19, you're like, oh, I'm gonna try and bust a nut when the ball drops. Y'all ever? No, just me. All right.
No, I get it. I get it. And I mean, if you mix a little drinking in there, that shit ain't happening. It might not happen.
Right. Well, mine was pretty uneventful also, but I ate good. You know, seafood. Did some seafood stuff over here. Chilled at the crib. Drank some tequila. That's it. Nothing too crazy.
Tequila's always good.
Tequila's my new shit, yo. I found out that tequila is, well, between tequila and gin, they're the lowest calorie alcohols. So that's a bonus, and I found out that I don't have any effects from tequila like other people, aside from feeling good, but like in the morning, no headache, no nothing. Like everything else gets me. Tequila, oh, that's my new shit, nigga. I think I'm half Mexican.
Yeah, I had tequila. I had a bunch yesterday, and same thing for me. And of course, like you said, it is the least amount of natural calories. Now, if you have your margaritas and all type of
Right.
other stuff in it, that kind of nullifies that piece. But
Sugar and salt and shit. Yeah.
hmm
But yeah, man. Other than that, it's been a decent year. Yo, I started going to the chiropractor. I think did I tell y'all that last week? I
No.
went to the chiropractor, first time ever. My neck was fucking with me, my lower back was messing with me, and so I went last week, and I saw her twice last week. She rearranged me, spread me out, pause, and then I went back this week by request. She's like, I want to see you again next week. So I'm like, oh, all right. Well, me too. I feel like I'm cheating here. So I pop in Wednesday, and let me tell you the craziest thing. You people that get joy out of getting your neck cracked are crazy. Because she like, all right, just let you relax your shoulders, breathe natural. and then she's like, all right, now relax the other side. I'm gonna relax the other side after what you just did. But nonetheless, let me get to the part that's crazy. So she works my neck out, right? And that's fine. And then she starts doing my back, and she lays me on this table, and she starts pushing my upper back and pushing down my spine. Then she gets a little bit lower and stuff, right? And she's like, oh, and I'm like, oh shit, that shit hurts. So she's using like the ball of her hand on my lower back. I was like, I didn't have pain until you start pushing on that shit, right? So she's like, all right, well, let me try and work it out, right? So she starts, pushing and pressuring and she's going down. And next thing you know, she's spreading my butt cheeks, like at the top, like where your crack meets like your back. She pushing. I'm like, yo, Oh, you lucky I put lotion on today, because if she would have cracked my ass, yo, you know you get that crack up there, yo, that shit's
I might have shat myself.
yo.
Oh man.
I was
I
like,
might
yo,
have
you
shat
lucky.
myself.
I'm like, you lucky I took a shower and didn't even shit today, because you would have been upset playing down there.
She was ready.
But
Yeah, I've seen too many videos of like chiropractors at work, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
have you
good.
seen, like, has it been like bad videos, like people getting hurt and shit, or what?
No,
Or
not
you
people getting
just,
hurt, but
or
like you
just
said,
seeing?
like
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like the surprise, like okay, relax. Once you, it's like what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm
You know,
good
and
on
they
that.
always
No,
look surprised, like no, man.
I'm good on that. I watch too many kung fu movies. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm good.
It's you get, I mean, this was like my third time now after last week. I went twice last week, once this week. So I'm kind of used to it, but still the neck thing. And like when she started playing with my head, I'm like, relax. You know. But yeah, man, you should go, because like I'm loose right now. Like I feel real, I feel good. Cleaned out the garage 2 days ago. Normally you'd be a little sore and shit, back be bothering you. Wasn't as bad, yo. So it's probably necessary, you know, and that's why people do it. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I've never done it, but even
Go
like when
get
I had a
yourself stretched
massage,
out.
I got a massage. We went on a cruise one time. We stopped over in Mexico in Cozumel, and did a
Mhm.
couples massage on the beach. And the lady's like, um, she asked my wife, what kind of massage you want? She was like, oh, I just wanted like something relaxing. She's like, okay. She asked me, I was like, yeah, something relaxing. And she's like, relaxing? You sure you don't want a deep tissue? I'm like, no, but like she kept like harping on this shit, like almost like stop being a bitch, you know.
Soft ass.
So I'm like, all right, let me get the deep tissue. Man, I regretted that shit. That shit was like
That
45
shit
minutes.
hurts.
Yeah,
That shit hurts.
shit was like 45 minutes of torture. Yeah.
That's my next thing, is going to get massaged. Now that I got my spine in order and stuff, I'm like, man, maybe I should go get a massage. See how that now that I got the bones and stuff right, go get the tissue right. I might feel real good.
Yeah, that deep tissue shit hurts. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, massages don't really work unless it's like the deep tissue or somebody like super strong, because my shoulders
Hey yo.
tough. I know you ain't talking Ayo. You had just butt cheeks butterflied out here.
She sure did, yo.
She spread you like a fucking turkey.
Next
like
next
old boy
time
from training day. You ever had your shit pushed in?
Had my shit pushed in, bro. I had no idea what the fuck he meant at that
next
time, yo.
next time I'm
Yeah, I
wearing
didn't
like
either. It wasn't
took
until I
me
went
like
like a
2 years.
rewatch. Yeah.
I'm wearing bicycle shorts next time I go to the chiropractor. Pull them shits up to like the middle of my back,
Hey, yo.
spreading my cheeks. It's crazy. Y'all been listen. Speaking of spreading cheeks, the Epstein docs, some of them leaked, right? I guess they pushed back the actual.
Wow.
What?
What a segue.
Wow.
Wow.
Segway
What?
King. Segway King. The Epstein docs. So we've seen, I don't know if those, like, all the stuff that we're seeing is real, right? Because they said they keep pushing back the actual opening and release because some powerful people are like, oh, I don't want my name shown, blah 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 blah, right? But then we're seeing, like, we saw, like, the Bill Clinton blurb that popped up. We saw the Trump blurb, Naomi Campbell. We saw, a lot of them pop up. I don't know the validity of that. Do you think those are real? You think some of that shit is, screenshot or Photoshop?
No,
I
most
think
of it's real. Most the stuff that's come out so far, we haven't learned anything new. This is stuff that's already been known, but it's been known like over time. So now you're kind of getting it in like chunk size bites or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of making people like, oh shit, But this stuff has all been out there already. Um, in terms of if it's real or not, I would say most of it is. I'm pretty sure there's people out there who have manipulated some of the stuff to make things look some way for one reason or another. Um, um, but in terms of like it being pushed back, when you were talking about that, it's basically what you said. You have some people who are named in the documents who are saying they want their name to remain sealed. The people who are advocates and victims and things like that are saying, like, this stuff happened in court, it's public record, so it should be out there. And these people are saying, like, yo, like, this is going to hurt my reputation. I haven't been charged with any crimes or suspected of any crimes or anything like that. So, like, why should my name be released because somebody said it? I'm saying they're lying. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what's working its way through the system right now.
If you had to guess, who were these? Just one name, EJ. Who would you say it potentially could be?
Oprah.
Ooh, no question. Yeah, Oprah's a scumbag whore, yo. VP, who you think? That's why Stedman ain't never mind. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not sure, honestly. If I had to guess, I mean, I can't think of like an actual name, but I would say it's probably like somebody who's like a CEO, government official, it's like something like that. You know what I mean? Like a university president, something, some kind of job like that, where the person is like, I don't want to be outed or whatever. But except for like people like Clinton, Naomi Campbell, Trump, Prince Andrew from the British royal family, like people like that, those, like, even we heard about a couple weeks ago, the Carolina Panthers owner was supposedly named. I haven't seen that yet. I've only seen it from what was shared in our chat, but I haven't like actually seen it through like media. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if ESPN reported that. I don't know who reported it, but that's the only time I seen it was when we shared it in our chat a couple weeks ago. But but I would imagine it's people like that.
I feel like for me, right, the way I look at it, if Bill Clinton can be put in there, then I think anybody could be in. Like, this is an ex-president. I don't feel like anybody has a leg to stand on to be like, I don't want my name shown. If we're showing a president, I don't think there's anybody in this world that could say, I'm above that. I'm above getting my name, put on blast. Now, I get it, and I know it's happening, but that's just my thoughts on it.
I think now the most thing that's most important about it is the court of public opinion, because I don't think anything is going to happen to any of these people. Epstein's death was kind of that was a coup de grace for everything, because that is the guy. You got Maxwell, right, still around, but we haven't heard much, and things are quiet. Yeah,
she ain't dead.
Nah,
not yet. What did he call her? Ghislaine. Maxwell, right?
No, he said Maxwell, like, but right was like correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but I mean, and it's been pretty quiet on that front. Like, we haven't heard of what is going to come from anything from her. I mean, they're holding her. I mean, we don't even know if they're going to take this thing all the way, because, like, to your point, there's some powerful people involved, and behind the scenes, are they going to make that go? You know what I mean? I mean, they already got to him. He's done for. That whole thing was just a mess. Like, that whole thing was just crazy, right? And so she's still around, but we haven't heard a thing about her. So, and this has been a long time now. So I really don't think anything is going to come from this other than the court of public opinion, where a lot of these people are past their prime, they're old, they got their money. No one's really going to give a shit. You can't cancel motherfuckers that already had their run. They're good.
Or some of them on their way out.
Yeah.
And with her, she's appealing her thing. I mean, she's in jail, so that's why you haven't really heard anything from her. It's not like be out there speaking publicly or whatever. But she's appealing her conviction. And as far as the other people, I'm not sure what can happen to them, because some of these things are like too old for anything to happen. Some of them where some of them, the statute of limitations had already run. You had some situations where the people are like, hey, I was forced into um um relations with this person while I was a minor, but it happened on the private island. And so you run into
No
jurisdictional
jurisdiction.
issues and
Yeah.
things, you know what I mean? So the like EJ said, I mean, the whole situation is messed up, but the whole situation is a mess as well.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yep. And the witness, the witness validity of it all is again, when you're trying to make this as a big case, Epstein was the linchpin, because he was the one that could speak to everything firsthand. Maxwell, like you said, is appealing her conviction. And I mean, this is somebody who was on the run, right, trying to avoid this whole situation. So there's going to be a lot that, if she doesn't appeal this conviction, she doesn't have to cooperate with the government at that point.
Right.
She
And
could
the
say,
government may not want to cooperate.
and that part too. And she could say, okay, well, if you guys are not going to overturn my conviction, fuck you, I'm going to jail. It is what it is.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you think about her situation is, like usually the government wants to work their way up the chain, right? So you
There's
start with some
nowhere to
low
go.
level,
There's
people,
nowhere
but
to go.
Epstein's dead.
There's
So
nowhere to
there's
go.
nowhere to go. And then on top of that, if the statute of limitations or jurisdictional issues exist for other people involved, like is the information she gives you any good anyway? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
I think they just got her jailed at this point just to make it a spectacle, to kind of say, yeah, we heard you. All right. And because what are they really gonna have? What are they really gonna have on her? You know what I mean? So
Well,
I
no, she's
think they
already been convicted. So, they got her for like trafficking and stuff like that. But as far as her, I don't think she's getting out because you have to remember like how this whole thing not necessarily started, but like what the controversy, well, that part of
yeah,
the
that
controversy
yeah.
is that
But
Epstein
my thing
gets.
is we haven't really seen the details of what they used, far as I know, what evidence they really had to really hold her to this stuff. You know what I mean? And I think her appeal might be pretty good. You never know,
Well, yeah, I mean,
because
she
of
got
all the
tried in
things.
open court. The information is there. I mean, I haven't looked at it personally myself, but the
Yeah,
information is
that's what I'm
out
saying. I don't know. I didn't look.
there. Yeah, but but remember the whole thing with Epstein is that he gets arrested by the locals and the feds down in Florida,
Mhm.
and the locals hand it off to the feds, thinking, okay, they're gonna really take care of this because they can do more than we can. So they kind of wash their hands of it, and then later they find out that the feds gave him this sweetheart deal where he only had to serve like I think it was like 13 months in jail. And it was like some kind of deal he had worked out with them where he only had to sleep in the jail. So he would leave like on some kind of like work release thing, but because he was into like doing finance and stock market stuff and things like that, he would essentially just go home to his mansion and like work from home and then just go back to jail by like 7 o'clock or whatever his curfew time was, and then stay the night and then leave the next, you know what I mean? And so, and then like all these rules that are around like when you get ready to convict somebody or offer them a deal or something like that, you're supposed to like let the victims know so the victims can like submit like impact statements and things like that. So that way, in case the court is like, yo, I'm looking at these victim statements and I don't think I can get jiggy with this and sign off on it. And they didn't do any of that stuff. So that was kind of part of the controversy. It's just that he got off so lightly for essentially assaulting minors. You know what I mean? And so even if she had information to offer, I'm not sure the feds would really offer her any kind of deal because it's like we already were catching heat for what this dude
This
got,
guy,
and then
and
we're gonna give her a
right,
deal too. Like,
that
so
right, and she basically got spanked because they made it light for him, and then this guy winds up dead, and then they got to go after her, and that's why I'm saying I didn't go look at it, but I really question, like, what do you really have on her? If he was getting all of that, what did she's a part of it, but this dude was the head of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I know they said she played an intricate role, obviously, in probably grooming the girls, but she could have always taken the position to say, well, he had me, you know, he had the relationship with me where it was abusive and I was doing his work. And, you know, that's why I'm like, I don't really know. And to your point, I think they're really just spanking her because we know the government doesn't like to look like they lost, and which in a lot of ways they lost with Epstein. So
and I think in her, I do remember from her trial, she didn't play it that way about, you know, like I was also a victim, you know. She played it more along the lines of like, this didn't happen, I'm innocent, you know. And I think maybe if she had went that way, she probably she potentially could have got herself out of trouble. But she played it the straight and narrow, I'm innocent, nothing to see here, you know, that kind of thing like that.
Pride and arrogance.
Yeah. So, you know, so now you can't, when you appeal, you can't bring up new issues that weren't raised at trial in an appeal. So she can't now appeal saying, hey, I was also a victim. You know, you got to basically appeal saying, hey, they didn't look at my stuff the right way when it was presented or whatever, and appeal it kind of on that basis.
Well, the filth that was part of it and alleged, you know, I wouldn't come out and plea either. Like I would have don't associate me with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't knock her for that. But nonetheless, like you guys both said, I don't think anything comes from it. You'll tarnish some names, you'll tarnish some legacies a little bit, but nobody's going to be held accountable. And I don't think anybody really expects that to happen, unless there's, you know, unless you find that there's some other people like you know, Diddy, you know, people like that are still in the public eye on a regular basis. You know, he's already dealing with a bunch of shit, but the truth is coming out in 2024. I'll tell you that. The truth is coming out for a lot of people. I'm interested to see how many other, you know, names, big names are on there, even little names. For me, I think it's if I had to choose a name, I'd say Hillary Clinton. I figure if Bill's on there, Hillary's probably on it, right? And she probably is hoping to one day still make some type of run politically, large run. And, you know, so with that, why would I want my name associated with that? That's the only reason I would say her, because if Bill was there, I would assume that she was either there, knew about it, or her name would have been mentioned somehow. You know, and whether she was or she wasn't, right? If she's saying, yo, I didn't know about this shit, I wasn't part of it, and somebody is saying otherwise in those docs, then yeah, it makes sense for her to be like, yo, I don't want my name, I don't want this shit out there.
The Clintons.
I didn't realize I was on mute. It was only Bill is on there. Hillary's not on there.
Yeah, and the Clintons have survived. I mean, if it's any family that survives scrutiny, they are champions. I mean, this dude in the Oval Office, the dress, Lewinsky, you know, the Benghazi, the Haiti, these people, I don't know. They just built differently, yo. They just built differently.
Oh man.
I'm saying they take criticism, like they're not phased by this stuff.
That's not what I'm saying. I want to say something, but then I feel like it's going to become a thing. It's like, oh, here he goes, capping for you. Oh, you know.
I mean, what about what I said? Again, I'm not saying that they were wrong in a lot of these situations. What I'm saying is these people, when you're talking about a family that
they're constantly attached to something, their name is attached to a lot of shit.
They're constantly attacked about a lot of stuff, and they just
right. But I guess the reason I'm kind of rolling my eyes, saying "oh boy" kind of thing is that, like, some of this stuff, like when you mentioned Benghazi, for example, right? Like I'm not sure what it is that people wanted from Hillary Clinton from Benghazi.
It's not again, but it's not about that, VP. You don't have to. You are putting on a cape. It's not about that. We know that here. What I'm saying is the scrutiny
their name has
that
been associated with shit
for it, whether she was right or wrong or did anything wrong, is just the fact that this family has, in the last 30 plus, 20 something years, has endured.
40 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, part of the reason why is that, and I don't want to get deep into this. It's not even. No, I'm saying part of the reason that this happens is that the right wing, for example, have sought as a way of bringing down their political opponents, of making, you know, unfounded attacks on them, right? And so they attacked the Clintons from the time that he was governor. Everything that they did was scrutinized. Like, as an example, like the reason we get to Monica Lewinsky is from an issue that was called Travelgate. When Bill Clinton becomes president, he essentially fires all of the people in the White House travel office who job it is to like arrange travel for the president and to events and different locations, you know, throughout his presidency or whatever. And he brings in his own people from Arkansas when he was governor. And these are all political jobs, right? And so the Republicans in Congress start investigating him over that, because this is a scandal that the president wants to hire his own people. You know what I mean? And I mean, this is like, to us, we see this happen all the time. Trump comes in, he fires all of Obama's people and brings in his own people. Obama comes in, he fires all the Bush people, you know, Biden fired all Trump's people. You know what I mean? This shit happens. Like, it's nothing to see here. But they made it a scandal.
However,
and then investigating this scandal, it led to a thing called Whitewater, which was some kind of land deal,
however,
like corruptly done in Arkansas with the Clintons, which then led to
however,
Jones, but then led to Monica Lewinsky.
however, he did get head in the Oval Office. That was not a conspiracy. That
No,
was
it
not a
wasn't.
plot. That was not a plot that happened.
No,
Right?
it did. But my point is that you would have never heard about that had they not been investigating him for something that's,
Would
you know,
she
it's
never?
like,
Would she have never come out and said that the president did this? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, the only reason she didn't come out and say it, they were investigating him for.
Wait a minute. Wait, when did we ever look at anything that someone was found, lack of a better word, guilty of, and said, how did we get to this? He did it. It don't matter how we got there. It don't matter that it was because someone else was being petty in the eyes of you know, others. We got there. He was getting head.
No, you're right, but you're missing the point that I'm making.
That's like saying
I'm not talking about the scandal itself. I'm not
That's
talking
like
about
talking-
the scandal. I'm saying the point that EJ was saying, like how this family has been associated with all these things, and I'm saying that the association, there's a point behind it, right? The same way that when Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, when she introduced him, they fist bumped, and the right started this thing about how there was some kind of terrorist like symbol.
Oh my God!
or whatever.
Everything is not. No. Listen, I get what you're saying, but what I was saying, we don't need to know the point behind it. The reason was just this family has endured a lot of shit. Now, Bill getting his getting some dome in the Oval Office, that's all him. That's all him.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not trying to take that away.
There's no agenda
He
that
did that.
push that. There's no agenda that push
Look
that.
at
This
VP
this
trying
the
to.
same guy that says in a power dynamic, when that happens with anyone else, the woman is a victim and it's all of this and
She
this
was a
that.
victim.
Right. So a victim was gonna say something. The right don't have nothing to do with that
No,
shit.
she wasn't going to say anything. Monica Lewinsky actually lied to the feds about it because she was in
At
love
first,
with it.
before she figured out how much money she would get on the back end. It was gonna come out one way or the other.
Right.
Stop
But when it came,
But it don't matter.
we're
building this story like to say
He put the
It's-
cape on.
it still happened. We're not looking back at EJ's upbringing to be like, oh, you know, EJ used to sneak and watch Steve's nude you know, DVDs, and that's why he has this obsession with strip clubs, you know.
That's true. What the
Hey,
fuck?
catch-
That is true.
I know, but no one talks about that. We just talk about your obsession with strip clubs.
Actually,
Like,
first of all, I don't have an obsession with strip clubs. I have an obsession with strippers, and had. Okay, had. I'm reformed.
Right. Just until the next, you know.
I mean,
No,
I
that's-
get y'all point. Don't get me wrong. And you guys aren't wrong in what you're saying, but all I'm saying is that there's a reason why this particular family is connected to so many quote unquote scandals. It's that it's a lot of it is, even for the things that are true, a lot of it is manufactured and then it leads to something true. You know what I mean? So like one example real quick is like the whole Hillary's inauthentic, right? Which she does seem inauthentic. That's one of the reasons I didn't like her, right? But if you're a person who everything that you say has been drilled down to at a granular level to say like you are this, you're that, you're going to be careful with the words that you say because people try to take what you say and make it mean something else. You know what I mean? And so when the whole email thing happened in 2016, when her emails and shit got hacked, or her campaign manager's emails got hacked, one of the emails that came out was this thread between staffers. They were trying to send out a tweet responding to something that Trump said, and it took like 13 emails in like 12 different versions of the tweet before it actually gets sent out. You know what I mean? And people are like, you see, she's inauthentic or whatever. And I'm like, this is a person who has for 30 years has had to think very carefully about what they say because of how their words are twisted, So that's all I'm saying.
But I think also with Hillary though too, it goes back to that point in time when people were trying to be tough on crime, and her commentary about black men was
It's before that. I hear you.
Look,
I mean,
Hillary's a G. Hillary's a
that
G.
her
She stood by her
commentary,
man.
yeah, that commentary that she had about black men though will forever follow her in the black community. And when these people chose to campaign and go to Harlem and do all of that shit, people gonna look at you like you're disingenuous. Like it's just
right. But I mean, but part of it comes before that, EJ. So like when Bill Clinton's running for president in the 90s, right? Hillary Clinton's name wasn't always Hillary Clinton. Hillary is a feminist.
Hillary Rodham.
So she was Hillary Rodham Clinton. And they attacked her for not taking her husband's name. Now, women do this shit all across the country. All around the world.
I get it. But that doesn't okay, I get it. And VP, I get that part, right? But when she comes, that what you're saying doesn't weigh more than what she said. What she said was extremely damning, especially in the time where you have 5 young men on trial for their lives, right? For something they didn't do. And Trump is saying that if we can vilify Trump for the bullshit he said about Central Park 5, she was right. She needs to be right there with it. And you can't fault people who, like myself, were old enough to remember enough of that time and be educated on the things that she said. You can't, it doesn't go much further than that. A lot of that shit, yes, there is an agenda, but they got to take blame for that shit. They got to. She has to.
Right. I'm not taking away from comments she made about, the whole super predator comment or anything like that. The only point that I'm making is that the with some of those scandals, the ones that are true as well as the ones that aren't,
I get you.
That there's an agenda behind. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, especially when it's the little. But that happens to every politician, right? Barack was a Muslim. I mean, he's a jihadist, and they say all of these crazy things that happens with politicians. But the problem with this family, and I think again, I don't knock them. I think they're resilient and they've shown resiliency. I mean, people were going after their children. I mean, it was just bad, right? But some of the things that they did, some of the things that they did, far as Hillary's commentary, and you could debate about what they did in Haiti or whatever. Some of the things they brought on themselves, but I'm just saying, I think they're more hated than the Kennedys at some point. Like if you think about it, like they've been attacked for 40-something years, and shit, you got to give them credit. Bill got ice in his veins, man. That motherfucker don't care. He don't miss.
It's only one thing to say to VP about this whole thing.
You having an unnatural allegiance to losers is not like you.
Yeah.
God,
listen, my boy Cat. I'm over here. Oh my God. I'm about to start like a whole sticky notes of just like phrases to use all 2024 off of what came off of that Cat Williams interview. Did you guys watch it? VP? EG, I know EG. EJ, I know you watched it. I watched about 95% of it. I had it on while I was doing while I was cleaning the garage, and a couple times I stepped away. I missed a couple pieces, but whew, man, that boy came out with darts.
As soon as I've only heard about an hour.
My man said, "So hey, Cat, welcome in." Oh, these niggas ain't shit. Ain't none of them shit.
Shannon, you let them sit here, Shannon, and tell you lies.
You know what's crazy? Like I saw it trending, and then I saw Uncle Ocho talking about it, right? Like after it happened, and he was
Thursday
saying
night
like how
recap.
people, right, and he was saying like how people were saying he wasn't like following up and like making corrections and stuff like that. And he was like, "Yo, I'm not a journalist. We just having a conversation." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he was like, "You want that kind of stuff? You go watch 60 Minutes or something like that. You know, they ain't my job." So
He was perfect.
but
He did
he was
perfect.
like when Cat came in, he was like, people don't understand, like they may think like it was set up that way or something. That he was like, literally he introduced them and boom, he just
Nigga
went off for like
Fire.
30 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Fire for them.
But that's the best way, and I hate when people say that, because as a journalist, you're trying to get to the content or what they have to say, and most journalists they intervene or they interject either if
Too
they have
much.
either if they have an agenda or they got to pull stuff out of somebody. This dude was giving you everything you wanted with just an intro. So
Right.
unless Shannon had an agenda to then be like, oh well, you know, and he tried to get clarity in certain things and tried to show some, you know, objectivity towards his people and his friends that he interviewed. But I think he did phenomenal. I mean, Cat was
Right.
just going damn.
And on that kind of platform, you're not necessarily trying to get information the way that a journalist would in an interview, like on 60 Minutes or NBC or whatever. You're having a conversation. So you bring up a topic and you let this person give their thoughts. And then maybe you ask a question like, so when you say that, like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like for example, when they talked about they were saying like how he had got some kind of like schooling or something from some ladies of the night, you know. And he was like, I read that, you know, but this happened or whatever. He was like, nah, the way that actually went down was, you know, da 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 da. And then Shannon's like, oh, okay, so you basically saying, you know, yada yada yada. He's like, yeah, and then it keeps the conversation moving. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not in there saying, hang on a second, according to my notes on this, you said quotes, da 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 da. You know, like this ain't 60 Minutes. You know,
It's just a bunch of mad haters, and you know,
They even had the producer.
The misery of these bums.
I mean, that's why they mad, because he
They even
came
had
out.
the producer tried to check him once.
yeah,
Well, he
Or
just
correct
corrected him
him.
because
Yeah.
yeah.
he said
That was
2018
necessary though.
versus 98.
Yeah, that was
Let me tell
necessary.
you something. My boy made Ricky Smiley cry. Ricky Smiley came out the next day and was like, my family's not happy about this. And then 2 days later, he back on the screen making his coffee and started crying. This boy Cat made him
Like for
cry.
real?
Like crying, like tears.
Oh, I
Like
didn't see that. Wow.
tears. Listen, man.
Wow.
I know, like, it was 2 hours and 59 minutes or some crazy shit, 2 hours and 48 minutes, some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
Out of that 2 hours and 40 plus minutes, I think there was probably about an hour and a half of some true shit in there, if not more. And the truth hurts. And
Yeah.
you're seeing how the truth hurts these people. For Kevin Hart, a guy who never gets into it with anybody, to come out and feel like he needs to on his platform that's being supported by the NBA during a live NBA broadcast address and make jokes about what Cat Williams did and said about him. Come on, man. It's some truth in there. I don't know if it's true that Cat had all of his scripts, but it's very possible that there might have been some scripts that Kev got that was supposed to be Cat's and Cat turned down, or vice versa.
Well, the thing is, Kevin Hart, and even when you look at, here's the thing, the boy Charleston White or whatever his name is, came out and he put out a video saying Ludacris, what, like he said the same thing I was feeling. Everybody was hyped and showing sharing Ludacris's freestyle in addressing Cat Williams. It's like, bruh, he said all of this stuff and you gonna come out with a freestyle? That makes you look like he's more right. Like you coming out with a freestyle saying these hidden innuendos and these punchlines, like you didn't address nothing he's saying. And Kevin Hart, the same thing. You remember, let's not forget why Kevin Hart is getting this smoke from Cat Williams. You went on the Breakfast Club telling them how Cat fucked himself over with all these studios and all this shit because he was on drugs. Like, you gonna put drugs on this man? He ain't never been caught up with no cocaine, no heroin, no nothing like that. So I think Kevin Hart got everything he deserved from Cat Williams. And if it was untrue, you don't come out and get on the interview or on your live to say this is untrue. No, you make jokes on the telecast that makes you look like he's actually right. In my opinion.
I mean, and you know, that's kind of one of those things, you know, like on a different topic. Like you always hear people say in the legal community, like when people go to court, they were like, when you have the facts on your side, you argue the facts. When you have the law on your side, you argue the law. And when you have neither on your side, you just pound the table. You know what I mean? And it seems like a lot of people are just pounding the table, and nobody's like refuting what he's saying with information. It's just like, oh, you know, like well, how come you didn't follow up? How come you didn't fact check them? You know, how come this? What about this? Look over there. Look over there. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't really hear anybody saying like, oh, like what he's saying is not true because here's, you know, these pictures of me from, you know, 2006 when so and so was going on. So that what he said is not true, or what, you know what I mean?
And I think
the only person.
No,
go ahead. I was say the only person that came out and this might play into the Ricky Smiley thing. Only person that came out and gave anything valuable, I think, to this was Ice Cube. Ice Cube came out and was like, listen, man, there was some stuff that was happening during Friday that maybe Cat wasn't aware of. It's very and it basically sounded like he was saying, yeah, Ricky Smiley was probably gonna be cast as the pimp, but then Cat came in and just killed it. He was like, Cat came in every single day and tried to steal the show, and that's what he did. He stole that movie and made it the he freestyled it and made it the movie that it was. So I think Ice Cube's the only one that came in. Now he did also correct some other stuff, like, you know, where Cat was like, you know, I was the one that was writing everything and yada yada yada. So Cube corrected some of that, but he also confirmed some of the shit that Cat was saying.
Yeah.
But I think Ricky Smiley is most upset and most hurt because over the last 10 years or so, he's tried to paint himself as this guy who wants to uplift and forward other people. And you know, and I commend him for that when he does that. But Cat basically exposed you to be a hater. You were on the set in this role, upset every day that you didn't have his part, and then you came on Club Shay Shay and you tried to downplay him and you did all of this. And let's be real. I mean, Ricky Smiley, Michael Blackson, Monique, all of them, if you look at them old comedy battle shows, I can't remember the name of that show, Steve, but it used to come out before I want to say before Def Jam, when they used to do the comedy battle roast.
Last
all of them,
maybe.
Yes, I don't know. It might be that. But all of them go back that far. And when you think about it, Ricky Smiley, honestly, you haven't been historically that funny. And Cat points out that you had to put on dresses, things that he did not want to do. And he exposed the fact that this entire time that we're working together, you're a straight hater trying to take me down. And it probably hit him to the core that he remembers that he was that was who you were at that point in time.
You know, it's some truth to a lot of it. Like basically what Cat was standing on, at least from a comedian standpoint or comedic standpoint, is look, I write my shit. Right. When I go out and I do a stand-up, I could do 2, 3, 4, 5 different stand-ups, and you're gonna see different jokes at each of them. And there's some truth to that, right? If you go look for videos of certain comics, you'll see them in different places doing the same jokes. Now I get it, right? If you're on tour, for example, Dave Chappelle just did his special on Netflix. When he was in Orlando, I just watched the one on Netflix and I'm like, all right, that's why he didn't want cameras there, because 90% of the shit on the Netflix special, you know, he did in the Orlando show, which someone else said he did in the Minnesota show, which someone else said he did in the New York show, right? So I get that, but that is one tour. But if you're talking about 3, 4, 5 different tours and you don't have new material each time, then that's what he's standing on. He's basically saying, and then I think he was right in the sense of saying a lot of these guys don't have memorable stand-ups. Chris Rock, memorable stand-up, right? But if you think about like a Ced, I think Ced has one, and I don't remember the name of it, but I remember it being funny. Steve Harvey don't have no memorable specials. Tell me a Steve Harvey special, stand-up special, other than the Kings of Comedy, which he was anchored by Bernie Mac. If you take Bernie Mac from that and Ced shit was funny.
Said she was all right.
Steve
But-
Harvey's not that funny to me. He's never been.
Right.
Ced
And I think
either.
that's the
Bernie
point.
was the show.
Yeah, like when I even like I've said this a bunch of times, and like black people look at me like it's sacrilege. Besides Bernie Mac, I don't think the Kings of Comedy was that good, and that's why I think I watched it when it first came out when I was a kid, and I watched it again as an adult, and I've only seen it like those 2 times because it's not that funny to me. Because to me, Steve Harvey's not that funny, Ced's not that funny, and I don't really care for. I've never liked D.L. Hughley as a
D.L.,
comedian,
yeah.
so Bernie Mac was the Kings of Comedy for me. So it was like, I could watch that shit on YouTube, but I having to watch the whole thing or whatever,
Yeah, I think
And-
Bernie
and-
was the bulk of it to me.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I would say real quick, just to kind of shoot comedians overall a little bell from what you said, is that Dave Chappelle has, and it's not just him who says this, comedians all over say it. And the reason that Chappelle doesn't allow cameras is because they typically say like comedians who like actually tour and the ones who are successful enough to have specials, they typically go on the road and they have like their stuff written, and then on the road they're doing the stuff that's already written, and then sometimes they test out new things like on the road, see how it goes over, and then
Yep.
once everything is like settled, then they do the special. You know what I'm saying? So you as a person who went and saw him when he came to Orlando, or somebody saw him in Atlanta, somebody saw him in LA, they watched the special and they're like, yeah, I heard that joke. I heard that. Whereas me, who didn't go to any specials, I'm hearing everything for the first time, and that's why they don't like cameras, because they don't want their stuff put on YouTube. And then when people get to the thing, they're like, yo, I heard this already. Like, and this happens in a lot of spaces, but people don't realize it. Like even in politics, this happens. For me, I'm super political, you know what I mean? And I remember in 2008, I'm watching, I watch the news every day. I'm watching campaign speeches and stuff like that. And when Obama came to Orlando, I went and saw him, and everything
So
that he
did I.
talked about, I had already heard, you know what I mean? And I'm like, wait, what the hell? Like, I heard this speech already. The only thing that's changed is that he took out Iowa and put in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So, I would shoot him a little bit of bill on that.
Yeah. No, and I get it, right? But I think that's the point that Cat was getting at. Like, listen, I write my shit. It's always different. Anytime you look up, there's a new Cat Williams special, right? And it's different content. It's different content. Ever since he came out with the Cryptic Chronicle, like the Pimp Chronicles, like since then, from a stand-up standpoint, I don't know that there's many people that have done stand-up at a level that he's done it consistently on these large scale stages and traveling and touring like him.
And I've seen a lot of I don't know, like lesser comedians, I don't mean it like in a derogatory way, but people who just aren't as big, who have toured with Cat, have been coming out on social media and confirming the things that he said in regards to trying to lift up other comedians that he brings on tour with them. I saw a white dude. I don't his name didn't seem familiar to me when I saw it. He posted on Twitter and he was like, he did a show like at a comedy club, and I don't know if Cat Williams saw it or one of his people saw it, but they asked him to come open for Cat, and he was like, this was the biggest opportunity in his career. He was like, he went and opened, and he felt like he killed it. He was like, the audience was laughing hard, whatever.
I saw it.
He
Yeah, I
was
saw
mad.
that.
Yeah, he was like, damn, because he was like, Cat Williams wasn't there. He wanted him to like see him, and then he was like, he walked off stage, and somebody just reached out from like behind a curtain in a fur coat and like shook his hand with a wad of cash, and it was like 5 times more than what the show was supposed to pay. And he was like, "You were stupendous," and I guess that was Cat.
He's like, "You were stupendous, young man."
And then he took him on tour with him. He said he did like 160 shows or something like that with Cat.
Yep.
So
Yep. But the other thing is too, he was 100% right about when he tours, because like when he was here in Baltimore, and when you look at his shows, you kind of look to see, okay, because he literally said this, and I literally did it when his show was out. I'm like, okay, well, who is sponsoring it? Is it by Makers? Is Bacardi? Who, like, what other thing is attached to it? And
Mhm.
he's like, nah, it's just me, which is wow. And he sells out every time. And he comes to Baltimore literally every year between December and February. He's either here in December or he's here around Valentine's Day. For the last 3 to 4, no, for the last, I want to say the last 5 to 6 years, he's been here every Valentine's Day, without fail.
Yeah,
Bad
I
weather
saw
or
him.
nothing.
I saw him years ago, like when he first popped out. We saw him down at what is that? At City Walk, and like ever since then, he'll be here in February, and I'll probably go see it. But going beyond that interview, I want to say it was yesterday. At least yesterday, I saw the video, and it might have been sometime over the weekend, or throughout the week. But there was a video that came out of him where somebody asked him about Kevin Hart, and he was like, "Look, Kevin Hart can pop up in Philly where he's from, and we could basically do a comedic versus for $5 million, and we could do it." Do you think there's any value to Kevin Hart popping up and doing that? I know he's not. We know he's not.
No, because I mean, at there's a saying in politics, and I'm not sure if that's where it started, but that's the only place I've ever heard it. Is that you don't punch down, right? So the candidate running for president doesn't talk shit about the person running for vice president on the other side because you don't punch down. And at this point in Kevin Hart's career, he's gotten really big, and it makes no sense to go. And I'm not saying like Cat Williams is some piece of shit, don't get me wrong, but when you think about the level of success Kevin Hart has had in movies, in comedy, his marketability, he's in every time I turn on my TV, he's on there in a commercial. You know what I mean? Like it makes no sense to engage further than what he did on his I don't know if that's a podcast or whatever that is, what he does with the NBA. What he did there. Maybe on his next if he goes on tour again, maybe like on his next special, he might address it. But like other than that, I don't think there's any value in doing anything more than that.
I'm not sure his career could withstand it. Like, I think he would get smoked, and I don't even think it would be close. Like, I feel like if he was to get up there and get into it don't even got to be like a roast off. Like, it don't even got to be like roasting. It could be just joke for joke. Yo, I'm gonna do a set, you do a set, or I'm gonna do a couple jokes, you do a couple jokes, whatever they break it up into. I think Kevin Hart gets smoked by Cat Williams every day, any day. Kevin
7
Hart's
days a
not
week.
funny. Kevin
7
Hart's
days a
not
week,
funny.
twice on Sunday. I've never liked him as a comedian.
He's an actor. He's just not funny.
I like, and we've all said we've liked him in roles where he was more serious.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, I've said that.
yeah, and I think to VP's point, it play, and I think Cat is a genius because you're challenging this person's manhood, his career, and his comedic origin, because to VP's point, Kevin can take this standpoint and say, I'm not gonna punch down. I got too much to lose. As a comedian, though, you got the whole comedic world saying, damn, a dude called you out, because comedy is like rap, it's like sports, it's about competition. So if I'm calling you out in Philly, where you're from, where Spank is from, Plastic Cup Boys, your homies, I'm calling you out in your city and you don't come out, oh, now we know you Hollywood for real. And everything I'm saying about you is true.
Mm-hmm. And he is like Kevin Hart is Hollywood. Like, I remember him when I remember him from Paper Soldiers. When Paper Soldiers first came out on the bootleg DVD, this was like shit. Paper Soldiers had to be like, Yeah, it had to be like
2000.
01, 2000, somewhere around that area.
Mhm.
And Kevin Hart was still just actor, and he was the funny guy in that movie, but that's because there was no one else in that movie that was funny other than I think that's it, honestly, when you think about it. Yeah, he was the only comedian, if you will, in that movie. And then he just kind of went from there and disappeared for a little bit, and then he popped up in Soul Plane, and then from Soul Plane he built from there. It's just I commend Kevin Hart because he moved quickly, and he moved under the radar because he wasn't part of anything major except for Paper Soldiers, right? And that's not major. And then Soul Plane, which was absolute trash.
Soul Plane had his moments. It was good for what it was.
I mean, from a
DP, you're on mute.
he said trash. I could read his lips.
Yeah.
But
it was what it was. But
from
but
from a
Cat,
box office standpoint,
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely trash. But Cat
yeah,
Williams made a valid point because he said, he I mean, if you think about it, Kevin Hart is a Philadelphia-based comedian. Spank, who is his Spank is a part of the Plastic Cup Boys, right? But Spank was a more established stand-up comedian before Kevin Hart. And I can only speak to this because when I was in college, Spank used to manage our comedy shows. So we had dudes like Lil Duval, Kevin Hart, Michael Blackson. We had all of these people. We would book them specifically for our school. Nobody else had access to Spank because Spank is an alpha like me. And so he would do the shows for us at a discount. But we saw all of these guys before they got big. So you think about it, Kevin Hart has reached this status without being in LA and playing the most famous comedy clubs. He hasn't
right.
even played the most famous comedy clubs on the East Coast. He hasn't been to the Baltimore Comedy Factory. He hasn't been to the Laugh Factories. He hasn't been to any of the joints in Manhattan. This dude, his stardom and his success really came out of nowhere. So I mean, it is a conspiracy theory and it looks crazy, but Cat is like, yo, you're a plant. And then when he said the dress thing, it's like, here you are. Everybody he
Yeah.
talked about.
Like, I mean, Kevin Hart was around, right? Because like the movie, like I'm looking on his IMDb right now, and like that Paper Soldiers movie that Steve made, I'd never even heard of it until just now. And so I see
Because it was like
something
a
with Beanie
Rockefeller
Siegel.
type thing.
Gotcha. That's why I assumed Rockefeller when I saw Beanie Siegel on the cover. But like looking at his IMDb, like he was in Scary Movie 3. I saw that. I don't remember him in it, but they said
Oh,
he
I
was in it.
remember it. Yeah.
And then he was in Along Came Polly. I did see him in that, and I didn't know he was Kevin Hart at the time until after like Soul Plane and other stuff had came out. And then when I
Right.
rewatched Along, I'm like, oh, Kevin Hart's in this,
Right.
But he had like, I think he was on screen maybe 3 times and maybe had like 2 speaking lines or something like that. So it's not like it was like his movie kind of thing, you know what I mean? And then after that, it was basically Soul Plane, and it's like this dude just came out of nowhere, and so it makes Cat Williams' point seem like it does have some validity, like he's a plant, like his whole career is made up by Hollywood or whatever. Because for me, this for a guy to do a movie like Soul Plane, and then for his career, as bad as that movie was, for his career to then take off the way that it did,
And
that seems
skyrocket.
kind of
Yeah.
implausible to me. You know what I mean?
Right. And even like you think about it, Kevin Hart's run started before the major, like, social media was around, but before it was what it is now, right? Like you can
Right.
become a big person, a big personality off of social media today, and then I come out of nowhere, maybe get a movie deal or a TV deal or something like that. I mean, look at if you watch Melanie and what's his face, that she always be yelling at him and shit, the little Puerto Rican couple from the Bronx. You know who I'm talking about?
TV show or like it's something
No,
on
no,
social
no,
media?
no. It's not. It's social media. Anyway, she's gonna be on a VH1 show, and out of nowhere, right? That's straight from social media, just from them bugging out, wigging out on social media, doing skits and shit like that. So, and who knows where that goes from there? But Kevin Hart came before this. He's before TikTok, right? Becoming TikTok famous.
Right.
He's before Reels and becoming famous in Reels and all of that shit. He just popped up out of nowhere. So it sounds accurate, right? And maybe it's not, right? But from a cat standpoint, he feels that way. And he feels like, yo, I put in the work, to EJ's point. I pound the pavement. I hit all these small clubs. I went and, showed up in front of 50 people before I got to 10,000 or 5,000 people, like Kevin Hart. And like I said, I respect the shit out of Kevin Hart for that reason alone, and the fact that he was able to skyrocket his career. You can't not, respect a guy like that. I just feel like, when you talk about comedian, I just don't like when Kevin Hart does these tours and he tries to do the stand up, because I went and paid good money to see him and it just wasn't funny to me.
Yeah.
I told you that. I mean, shit, even going back to 40-Year-Old Virgin, he had one of the most iconic scenes. But you don't even remember
the little Best Buy joint. Yeah.
Yeah. Smart Tech.
Smart Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best scenes, but you don't even remember that shit.
That it was him. Yeah. That's actually my favorite scene from the movie.
But I mean, at the time, but you don't typically.
But you don't know who he was.
Hart. We didn't know who he was.
I didn't know who he was when I saw the movie originally, because I saw it in the theater when it first came out, and so it was like, yo, this scene was funny as hell. I have no clue who that dude is, but that was very funny.
And it's possible that he benefited from that, right? Just having those small scenes, and every time he had one, it was funny. So somebody along the line was like, all right, let's give him a bigger role, which is probably what Soul Plane was. And then it kind of went from there, which, I mean, he was decent in Soul Plane, right? He was probably cheap, right? He headlined it. He was a somewhat funny guy. You've seen him in some bigger roles or some bigger movies with smaller roles, things like that. It's like your guy, VP. What's the guy that in the movie where they were doing the couponing and shit? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. The big dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what his real name is, but you told me him from a show you watch.
Yeah, I've seen him in like 2 or 3.
You said in Cobra Kai.
Yeah, he's the EJ. You know who he is, the big guy in Cobra Kai, the next door neighbor that lives, the fatter guy. What's his name? Anyway, nonetheless, he's another guy that he's had those small one-line roles or those couple of scenes here, and now you're starting to see him. He had that show he was in an HBO show where he played a major role. So I think that's kind of how
Paul Walter Hauser.
Dude's funny. He's funny. Oh, he's Stingray. I think that's his name. Stingray.
I know he's talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I figured that's who he was talking about.
But nonetheless, I'm going back to the Cat Williams thing. He talked about Cedric stealing his joke,
which was evident. That was
it's
evident.
Possible. Mm-hmm. It's definitely possible.
Was evident. They've been saying that shit for years.
I watched a YouTube video last night with a side by side, and it seems very accurate that the joke was
very similar, right?
Yo, I mean, dude was in the building. You know what I mean? He just changed. He said he just changed my car to a spaceship.
But here's the thing, though. That there's there's validity to something like this when everybody comes out and starts commenting on it, right? Like this shit went. Not only did it go viral, and then going back to Shannon Sharpe, that piece where everyone's like, "Oh, how come he didn't correct it? How come he didn't say?" That's not his job. Shannon Sharpe, although he's a big football player, he has some big roles on ESPN. I feel like he's using Club Shay Shay to build his own brand, right? And that brand of being a reporter is not what this is. This is he did what he wanted to do. This shit had 10 million views in 24 hours.
Yeah,
that's what he wanted to do, whether he corrected him or not. 10 million views. Now
he didn't have to correct him. He didn't. He didn't have to correct him.
That's what I'm saying.
This is this person's firsthand account of stuff. Again, unless Shannon had an agenda to protect the people that Cat was coming after, Cat Williams made Shannon's job easier than anything. He was giving them everything he needed,
and it opens a platform for those people. Opens a space for them to come on and dispute it. Right? Hey, Kevin Hart, you think that's not true? You're welcome to come in here. He may not, or he might. But hey, now there's a lane for you. It was said here you can come clear the air. Same thing that Cat did with Ricky Smiley. Same thing he did with Cedric and all of that, right? So, I think Shannon Sharp did a good job with that.
Right. And at the end of the day, Shannon Sharp's job is to get views. You know what I mean? That's all his job is to bring people on who are interesting and to have people watch his podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
it's not behind a paywall.
Exactly.
Shit's on YouTube, open to the world. So look, listen, man. I'm trying to get this marketing up. I'm trying to get these endorsement deals, and this is how we gonna do it. I'm gonna get ads because now I got 10 million views in a day.
Right.
It is what it is.
That's all it is. Because even and you know, and the reason that that the shit is working or whatever is like I was talking, me and my wife were talking, and like she watches this one YouTuber where I think I told you guys before, they have like a bunch of stuff on YouTube you're not supposed to say or whatever. It can like make your videos get demonetized. So yeah. So when he says
Thanks,
so
CJ.
this particular guy, when he talks about like he's reacting to a movie, like if somebody like gets killed or whatever, he'll say like that person was deleted or whatever.
Right.
So that it's not, and like cursing
transitioned.
And yeah. But when you look at a thing like Shannon's a celebrity. He's on ESPN. He has Nightcap with Uncle Ocho. Plus he has Club Shay Shay. This dude just did a video that did 10 million views on your platform. So they're not going to demonetize him.
Right. You're not censoring me.
Right. You know what I mean? He's making no money. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's going to be, he did what he was supposed to do, which was to bring somebody on who's interesting and to have that person give him a content that makes his channel grow. And that's exactly what he did. Because I bet if somebody who tracks this stuff, and maybe Shannon may say what it was one day, if you go look at his subs pre-Cat Williams to post-Cat Williams, I bet they've gone up.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say double, but I bet they've gone up by a considerable
significantly. Right. And he'll be able to monetize off of it. I mean, whatever. There's going to be the commercials and the ads that he did do for those that are going to pop up, the Prize Picks and all of that shit. And because you got 10 million views, them things popped up every couple of minutes for all of us. So you want to watch this whole thing? I got you. So
then you think about the other thing too. They talked about this in the very beginning of the podcast. Shannon makes his own cognac. They're drinking that the whole time, and so that was 2 hours and 45 minutes of free advertising for the cognac. That got seen by 10 million people. Yep. And then you have Cat who's saying, oh, this is a good cognac because they don't taste like, it don't have this, and Shannon's like, yeah, he know about cognac because you could tell when a person starts talking about, so
free commercial.
What I mean? Yeah. It's all around success. Around success.
Shout out to Shannon Sharp, man. All right, man. NFL. 'Tis the season. The fantasy, I like what the NFL has done.
Real quick, Steve, I've just been told that reports are his cognac is now sold out after the Cat Williams interview. So there you go.
Right.
Some shit that you ain't never,
some shit you ain't never heard of.
I remember when he rolled it out when he was talking about rolling it out when Club Shay Shay first started. But and I saw the price then.
He rolled that out before. When he was back with Skip. That's what he used to be drinking. He used to do on set, the Le Potier or whatever it's called.
Right, Le Potier, yeah. I ain't 100 a bottle. Ooh.
I might have to see if I can find it down here. NFL, man. 'Tis the season. Fantasy season is pretty much over unless you play week 18 like a weirdo. I like the extra week leading into the new year. It's kind of perfect. You get 1 week of no fantasy. Listen, man, Goodell's a genius. When you talk about sports betting and shit, right? This is the week that all the fantasy leagues are done. So what you gonna do for football this week? You gonna bet. You can go to Prize Picks, you can go to Underdog, you're gonna go to MGM, you're gonna go to all of these, you're gonna try and make your money back. Or if you're the winner, you're gonna spend some of that money and try and parlay it into something new, something bigger. Pause. Genius marketing. Genius marketing by adding that extra week and having it align perfectly the way it did for the new year and all that fun stuff. But let's get right down to it. VP, you probably have the list of games that mean anything, the big ones. Pause. I think the
What do you
biggest
mean?
one,
Jets Patriots don't mean nothing.
I think the biggest one, yeah. Can we double mute him? the biggest game that there is this week is probably no bigger than the Miami and Buffalo game, because it could mean that Buffalo doesn't make the playoffs, or it could mean that Buffalo wins their division. Like the spin there is crazy. Like you could go from either winning your division and getting a home game to not making the playoffs and being at home watching the games in the matter of what happens this week.
Right.
I don't think we've ever seen that before. Like we usually see, for example, the Cowboys and the Eagles. Cowboys win, they win a division. They lose and the Eagles win. They're still in the playoffs. They just don't win the division. That's
Right.
usually what you see. But to be in a position where you could either win the division or not make the playoffs is completely different. It's just something, uncharacteristic.
Yeah. And I remember we talked about this on pod when they first started doing it, 4 years ago, with all these divisional games in the last week of the season. We were saying like, yo, that made the last week great. Like, I can't wait for the playoffs now. You know what I mean? And the ratings were good, and they've kept it up ever since. And I think this Dolphins Bills game is the exact kind of scenario that the NFL was hoping for by having all of these divisional games happening on the last week of the season, is to get something like this, to, like you said, where, Dolphins win, they win a division. Bills win, they win a division. Bills lose, they could not make the playoffs. So
Right.
it's definitely in an entertainment business, you definitely are going to get what you pay for.
I want some Thai curry wings today. Now,
well, also not for nothing, even though that the Ravens versus Steelers game was meaningless to the Ravens, when you think about it, for the Steelers, right, that was the deciding factor for you to win 10 games or not. Plus, it counts while it's against the Ravens, and the Ravens doesn't matter for them. It still counts in the strength of schedule and the win OPI for the Steelers. So, I mean, and even as Ravens fans, I know they were highly conflicted yesterday, to the point where it's like, we didn't want to play any of our starters. We don't want anybody getting hurt. But they also hate to see the Steelers being in position for playoff contention, because it's just one of those games that if any team can beat you, it's going to be a divisional team.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, that Steelers win is what puts the Bills in a position where if they lose and Jacksonville wins, they're out the playoffs.
Right.
Because if Baltimore wins that game yesterday, then Buffalo's pretty much in no matter what.
Yeah. If Baltimore wins yesterday, the Bills are in, and today only matters for seeding. And that didn't happen. And so now, they're literally fighting for their playoff lives. And what will be even what would be crazier is that, because the Jacksonville game is at 1. So, you know what I mean? So so if Jacksonville wins, when they play tonight on Sunday Night Football, the Bills are literally going into a win or go home.
Win or die. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But Trevor Lawrence is a game time decision.
He's playing. They got him in. They just announced that. So if Jacksonville loses, are the Bills automatically in?
If
I don't think. I think the Bills.
If Jacksonville loses, the Bills are in. It'll only be seeding at this point.
Got you. Okay. And so Jacksonville is playing Tennessee, right?
Get in if they lose. It's just, yeah.
Okay. Buffalo clinches playoff berth with Buffalo tie. Pittsburgh lost. Who won? Jacksonville lost, or Houston Indy tie, and that wasn't a tie. So so Jacksonville needs to go out They got to win. They got to beat Tennessee, which I mean that's another divisional game, which is big. I'm surprised they didn't move the Buffalo Miami game to 4 with the Jacksonville Tennessee game at 4, and then the Cowboys and Washington
Why
and
would you? It's
Giants
Sunday
and
night.
Philly.
It's Sunday night football. Sunday night football with the
Because
AFC on the line.
but if Jacksonville loses, it doesn't matter, right? Like what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, if you put all of those games at that 4 o'clock window, you got all the Jacksonville fans, all the Buffalo fans, all the Miami fans, all the Cowboys fans, all the Eagles,
But again,
everybody in that hour watching.
right on paper, right? Okay, if you look at this game with all injuries aside, Jacksonville
should win this game.
So it's gonna put all eyes on 8 o'clock.
I
Yeah.
hope they do. I hope
And this
Jacksonville
game-
wins it.
The Miami Buffalo game was actually flexed to 8 o'clock. It was supposed to be at 1. It got flexed to
Mhm.
8.
I hope
So
I like it being there, right? I'm hoping that Jacksonville wins, because if they don't win, I'm gonna watch it either way, and I'm sure a lot of people are for seeding, but it doesn't have as much of that. Like if you're just a football fan, not a Miami fan, not a Buffalo fan, not somebody that does podcasts, and not somebody that does sports betting, just a football fan, it has more value to you if you can potentially see this team in the weather that they're gonna have. Oh no, they're playing Miami. Never mind. But you get to see this team who could potentially be in or out. They could go home. Like they're gonna be out there putting their ass on the line if Jacksonville wins this game.
and quite
this is-
frankly, the winner of this game is the potential match for the Ravens in the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
I
And-
don't know
and
if
what's-
I'd go that far.
What's
I don't know if
crazy
I'd
about
go that. That's
what's-
quickly jumping out the window.
what's crazy about this game too is that if Miami wins but Jacksonville loses, the Bills get in, and then Bills play Miami round 1 in Miami. So we'll get the same game next week.
Back to back. I think it's similar. We've seen that before with the Cowboys
That happened
and the
last year.
Eagles.
Same two teams.
Yeah,
Played them
It's
played
gonna-
them week 18 and then played them again round 1 in the playoffs.
yeah, it's gonna be good. That's a big game. You guys are gonna right now. They're saying Mostert is doubtful.
He's out.
Which is
He's not playing.
he's out. Okay, so that's
Him
a
and
big
Waddle
one.
are both out.
Waddle's out.
They're gonna. They said Waddle
Boy, y'all-
can go.
Y'all
Waddle
lucky y'all
can
made
go,
the playoffs
but they
already.
want to. Waddle can go, but they want him to with that high ankle sprain. They want him to hit the ankle to be as good as possible for the playoffs.
This would be so much better if the Dolphins also could be eliminated. Like if there was a way where both of y'all could be eliminated, this game would be like the football game of ever. Like, from the beginning of time. Like this would be the one game that you could say is probably the most meaningful game that has ever taken place. More than the Super Bowl, if you would say, to me. To me.
No.
You're talking about two teams who either have a chance or don't have a chance. Like that's
no,
huge.
No,
Pause.
no.
I
But-
wouldn't go Super Bowl, but I would say
Yeah,
it would be pretty big.
It will be one of the biggest games that we've seen, obviously, in the recent decade for sure. And this game, it's almost tailor made. And like I said, and I think y'all were arguing me down. I said I think the league wants Josh Allen to go. I think they want him to be the darling.
Well,
They
duh.
kind of feel the way that they feel. Oh, it wasn't y'all. It was somebody else. They kind of feel like Patrick Mahomes is who he is, and it is what it is. But they want Josh
Yeah.
Allen on the bill. They do.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So Josh, yeah. I don't want the Bills to win because that's gonna actually I do kind of want the Bills to win. Kind of want the Bills to win only because I want to see a snowy matchup in the playoffs next week.
Haven't seen
That's
one
the
of those in a
only
long
reason.
time.
Not because I give a shit otherwise, but that would be interesting. I think we'll see some snow this week, no matter what. You got the Washington game is in Washington. I don't know what it looks like up there right now. EJ,
No snow.
no snow.
No
Damn,
snow.
so it went above y'all.
It didn't come at all. It was just a lot of rain this week.
Hey yo, nah, it snowed in Connecticut.
I mean, it's fucking Connecticut.
That's above y'all.
Yeah, and it's
Somebody,
fucking
somebody tell
Connecticut.
it. You know what? Do we need to
It
start a
always,
geography
it always snows in
podcast too?
It always snows in Connecticut. It doesn't
That's
snow
not true.
anywhere. It always
That's
snows.
not true.
Even when I lived in New York, it snowed in Connecticut and it didn't
Snowed in
snow New York.
Pennsylvania also.
It's Pennsylvania. Fuck. It didn't snow in Philly, I can tell you that. It probably snowed in Pittsburgh and Harrisburg
that-
and shit like that.
Where's that Philly game? Is that Philly game? Because if it snowed in New York also.
I think it's
The
in
Philly game
New York.
is Philly game is in New York or New Jersey,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Right. So, you guys think, well, Philly's going to make the playoffs no matter what. And I don't think Philly's winning the division. I don't even want
think
to
they
talk about
lose
it. Cowboys
today.
are going to win. Cowboys
I
are going to
think
beat
they lose
Washington,
today.
and that's it.
I
Yeah,
think
it
they're
don't
gonna
even
lose.
matter if they win or lose because the Cowboys are going to beat Washington. There's no way Washington's beating the Cowboys. Divisional or not, you know, there's no way. Put the house on it. If there's one bet you put in today, they call that the hammer. That's your hammer, Pauls. Put everything you got on the Cowboys money line, and you will win today.
Yeah, I
But
hear you, brother.
yo, before we even get into today, man, yo, shout out to Houston Texans and CJ Stroud to go from having the #1 overall pick to in the playoffs the next year.
And the
That is
number 2
crazy.
pick, right?
D'Amico
They have 1
Ryan.
and
The
2
one,
yesterday?
the 1 and 3.
Shout out
One
to
and 3.
D'Amico Ryans,
Yeah, D'Amico,
coach of the year.
right, and you know, the thing for me, like I loved seeing it, you know, but it also made me mad, right? And I think EJ will probably agree with me here because he's a Jets fan. Like, you look at the Texans, they draft this kid CJ Stroud, and they go from the toilet bowl to the playoffs. The Bengals draft Joe Burrow. Next year, you know, I mean, he gets his ACL next year, but a year after that, they're in the Super Bowl. You know, the Bills with Josh Allen, the Chiefs with Mahomes. Like, you know, you see these teams just go get their guy, and boom, you know what I mean? Like, the whole franchise has changed. And I think that we found our guy. I hope in Tua, but you know, I think the jury is still, as I would say, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, at this point. But
Tua's your guy. Unless he gets hurt, he's your guy.
It's just like the shit is just maddening, you know, to see, like, for us, you know, I don't know how long it's been for the Jets, but you know, almost 20 years since we won a division. You know, over 10 years since we made the playoffs, and or not 10 years, we made it last year, but before last year. You know what I mean? The shit is just, it's maddening to see like how these franchises can just go get their guy and just immediately turn it around while we've been rebuilding for 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
It's even more frustrating for us because we as an
'Cause you have
organization,
picked quarterbacks and they just haven't worked out. At least they've tried. Like the Dolphins haven't even tried, but at least
Yeah,
the
we
Jets
weren't
have tried.
trying.
It's
but
just
We didn't try until Tannehill.
even to that point, right? Again, we haven't, for whatever reason, we have not been able to develop quarterbacks. Sanchez, we pick. This guy has 2 AFC runs, right? Chad Pennington in 2000, phenomenal, gets hurt. Then, you know, we go Sam Darnold. Not even before that, we go Hackenberg, which our GM only drafted this kid because he knows his family. If you watched him his last 2 years at Penn State, he was trash outside of Bill O'Brien. Then we go get Darnold, who I thought we reached for. Darnold, as he
Don't
got
forget about
through,
Geno.
Geno was second round, and I'll get to Geno. Darnold, we watch his progression in USC. The older he got, the more interceptions he threw. I'm like, why did we pick him? Geno, West Virginia, he's lighting it up. He could throw the ball. He's still playing in the league now, but he gets punched in the fucking face and breaks his jaw. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And Zach Wilson,
at least you guys picked Geno and not who was it that the Bills picked?
that year, I don't know.
The
No.
other black quarterback.
Oh,
EJ
Tyrod.
Manuel.
EJ
Oh,
Manuel,
EJ
exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
EJ Manuel, yeah.
Could have been that bad.
Yeah. But I mean, shit. Geno shows some flashes, but over $600, fucking his career gets over because he gets punched in the face.
At least in
And
New
then-
York or in in Jetstown.
And then Zach Wilson, I mean, has, in my opinion, all the talent in the world, but the one guy that they were banking on to develop him gets fucking run over riding a bike and dies. the fuck? Like, you can't make this shit up.
What are you
Greg
talking
Greg
about?
Knapp Greg Knapp was the
The
quarterback's
the
coach
quarterback coach for the Jets.
that,
Oh,
that was
man.
being brought in for Zach Wilson because he's been with this kid his entire career. This motherfucker is riding a bike on the Upper West Side of Manhattan or somewhere and gets hit by a car and dies.
damn.
Like, what?
That's bad luck.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, but that's the other thing too. You guys keep bringing, and I get it. You got quarterback coaches and you got positional coaches and stuff like that. But when you bring in a quarterback, it might be a good idea to bring in an offensive head coach. Look at what the Dolphins did. Dolphins went to an
Don't get me
offensive
started,
head coach
please.
from a defensive head
Don't
coach,
don't get me
and
started,
now you
please.
got Tua looking like like he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league,
That
right?
I can get on. We're not gonna talk about the Jets because
Dak
I've been
Dak
saying this for
Prescott
years. I've been saying
always
this for
had an
years.
offensive quarterback, and he was
The
a late
Jets have
round pick
never had a problem on defense, even with the least talented teams. We
till
keep
this year.
going out there, and we keep going. No, I'm talking about defensive teams. Even when we didn't have good guys on defense, we still had stout defenses. But we keep going out there and getting defensive head coaches: Rex Ryan, Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh. The list goes on and on and on. And it's like that's not our problem. The one person we tried to get that supposedly was an offensive guru was Adam Gase, and that didn't work out. And we knew he wasn't good. So
I don't know what the hell they were thinking after they saw him
listen
coach in Miami.
to Peyton Manning. Listen to Peyton Manning. At this point, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say about these guys. Woody Johnson has come out to say he wants to bring back Saleh. I'm telling you right now, Woody
Saleh's
Johnson.
coming back.
Saleh,
coming
I've said this to y'all years ago. I have documents. I've been saying it. He's not a good coach. He's a coordinator. He's not a head coach. He's not a leader of the entire team. He's a player's coach. He's too friendly. I don't like him. If I'm Woody Johnson right now, I know you got.
Hey, yo,
I know you got.
What a name! Have I never caught that before? My
Yeah.
man's name is Woody Johnson.
Yeah,
Dog, if I
yeah.
grew up with that name, oh, forget it. Shorty, you know what they call it? You know what my name is?
Hey,
It was
listen,
in the cards.
listen. If I'm him, right? I understand you got Aaron Rodgers there. Don't give this guy too much power over your team. Go to him and say, "Look, I'm firing these guys, especially if we get blown out by New England. I'm firing these guys, and I'm going to give Jim Harbaugh whatever he wants. He wants to leave Michigan. I'm going to give him ownership stake. I'm giving him whatever he wants. Jim Harbaugh should be the coach of the New York Jets going forward.
It's not going to happen. And the
not
reason why I
know.
say that, not even as a Jets hater, as a Dolphins fan, Jim Harbaugh reminds me of Urban Meyer. He's trying to go to any kind of ready-made situation. And while I think y'all got a good defense, the offense is mostly there. But given the fact that you're going to have Rodgers for 1, maybe 2 years, and then have to bring in somebody and develop them, I think Harbaugh would probably rather go to the Chargers, where the defense is still somewhat okay, and they got a guy who most people consider to be a stud. I don't at a quarterback already.
If I'm Harbaugh, where I'm going is Atlanta, because if Atlanta don't make the playoffs after the start that they had, after the start that they got every other position, they got defense, they got wide receiver, they got 2 running backs, they got 2 tight ends. Like, that team is ready to go. All you have to do is find the right quarterback. And I get it. You can go to the Chargers and you get your quarterback, but you got no wide receivers over there. Like,
Right.
Keenan Allen is old. He could go to the he could go to the Raiders. Raiders is not a bad fit either, because they've got Josh Jacobs, they've got wide receivers. They
will probably be gone by the end of this year.
They got a team. I'll tell you one thing.
Here's what I'm saying.
He's not going to the Jets, because the Jets don't have.
Well,
they don't have the offensive firepower.
I disagree. Here's the thing: if you look at the Jets, it's bigger than just what we bring as a team, right? It's the marketing, and if you want to become your own brand, your own persona, look at what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And you got to think about it. If I'm Woody Johnson as the owner, I'm going to Aaron. I'm saying, look, I need you to come with me. I need you to buy into this. You're going with Jim Harbaugh, who's going to allow you to do what you want to do. He was a quarterback. He knows how you think. He knows what you want. We're going to give you everything you fucking need. All you need is an offensive line. We got Garrett Wilson, who broke 1,000 yards with 4 different fucking quarterbacks. We got a couple of other guys. We're gonna make some moves. We're gonna shore up this offensive line. You got one of the best defenses in football. Harbaugh don't have to worry about it. When he was in San Fran, he didn't like having to worry about the defense. You ain't got to worry about that. Just come in. You in the biggest stage, brightest lights. Come through, because you'll be bigger than the coach. If Jim Harbaugh would come to the Jets and would have win a Super Bowl, that motherfucker wouldn't have to work a day in his life ever again, anywhere.
Yeah, but they said that about Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire and all that. Here's the thing. Salah's not going nowhere. So none of that matters. Salah's not going nowhere. The problem that the only problem I have with Salah is in Hard Knocks, I felt like he was the guy. To your point, I thought he was a leader of men. I thought he had it watching Hard Knocks. But watching his body language like the last 6 weeks, I could say, and even especially mostly the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, he looks like a homeless dude on the sideline, just standing there.
But he's
like
always
no
been,
emotion.
He's always been like that.
No emotion. No, he showed emotion. He showed emotion at the beginning of the year. Yes, he did.
Even at the end of the year, he only shows emotion when there's a bad call and he wants to argue it. Other than that, for his entire tenure, he doesn't fire players up. He's too much of a player's coach. He doesn't get mad when they make mistakes. They want to talk. This nasty part is they want to talk about how Nathaniel Hackett came in and we've been one of the most penalized teams. We were getting penalties before Hackett came in. This guy doesn't hold the players accountable. He's too player friendly. We need a disciplinarian.
Hold on a second. VP, when I say the same thing about Mike McCarthy, this motherfucker be on his soapbox. Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl, so who cares if he can hold them accountable? He's the best that you guys have. I wish we had him in with the Jets. Now
nothing changes.
Now he's saying
no, stop. You're conflating the argument. The argument is Salah, who hasn't won shit. Salah hasn't.
The Super Bowl makes it so that because he won, he don't got to do shit else.
Is this guy serious? Ever since McCarthy has been there, they've been over 10 plus wins. Salah is fucking.
We were at that before that.
With
we were at that before that. You're telling me nothing. You're not saying nothing. With Dak and Zeke, you're telling me nothing. I didn't already know.
Bruh,
you telling me nothing I didn't already know.
Salah is like 6-20. Like Salah's like 14 and like 30. What are you talking about? Mike McCarthy wins. Mike McCarthy wins.
No. Jerry Jones wins.
Get out of here.
Jerry Jones wins.
Stop it, Steve.
Jerry Jones wins.
Stop it. You're comparing Robert Saleh to Mike McCarthy.
No. I'm not comparing them. I'm comparing.
I don't agree with you that.
And that's fine. I don't agree with you. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. VP has been on here. What do
the Cowboys do that Mike McCarthy needs? Y'all have a couple of different penalties. No, we are one of the most penalized teams in the last 4 years.
You know what we are? We are the most penalized team in the league.
You're not. We're literally the most penalized team this year.
Okay.
It's a fact.
I'll put a bet on it. I'll bet you.
$20. Go ahead.
Every week. I watch Cowboys every week, and you know what they say? This is the second most penalized team after the Las Vegas
You said
Raiders.
Second. You said second.
After the Las Vegas
I said
Raiders.
we're the most.
Well, you're wrong. You can't be second if the Raiders are first and we're second.
I never heard that. I never heard that.
Of course you're not. Of course you did.
All right.
Anyway, nonetheless, the point is
you're such a fucking a Republican. You got a team battling for your divisional win. You're getting 10 to 11 wins a year, and you got to cry about the head coach. My head coach
trash.
Has a losing record, and you want to talk about trash? You're fucking.
We got enough talent. We got enough talent where we should be winning. We should be winning. Now, I don't care about regular season wins. We've been there. Regular season wins is new to you. That's new to you. That's new to the Dolphins. That's new to everybody in your division. To us, and that proves my point. We win the division regularly. We win the division regularly.
I'm not with Jason Garrett was the coach.
I said we win them regularly.
When Jason Garrett was the coach?
Yes.
Jason Garrett was the coach. Y'all were fighting for wild cards.
The year that Tony Romo got hurt, that was the one year that we fought for wild card.
Okay, all right. And Mike and this guy comes in, and y'all been over top the NFC every year. The New York Jets have been charged. We were there
when he wasn't there. EJ, that's what you don't understand. You're not paying attention.
This season, the Jets have the most penalties this season with 122 or 123, and Cowboys.
23. Thank you.
Cowboys are second with 113.
He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, VP. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
So okay,
But they're
so
still, but they're the
nonetheless,
second most penalized team, right? One team is in the bottom of their fucking
no,
division,
no, no, no,
or
no, no.
third in their
Stop
division.
moving. Stop
The other
moving the
one is
goalposts.
battling
Stop
for
moving the
first.
goalposts. Stop
There
moving the
is no
goalposts.
goalposts. Your
Stop
coach
moving
has
the
won a
goalposts.
Super Bowl. What are we
Stop
talking
moving.
about?
Not with us. Stop moving the goalposts.
But
Your
that's to be
goalpost was
determined.
your goalpost was Robert Saleh is a bad coach because he's not a leader of men because he can't keep them from getting penalties. And I said
No,
what
what
you
I
have
that's
said
not what I
multiple
said.
times
What
in
I
the
said was
past.
he doesn't hold them accountable. He's too player friendly.
Mhm.
So is your coach too player friendly?
Absolutely.
I don't see that.
Absolutely. I've been
I don't see
saying it
that.
every single year since he's
I
been there.
don't see that. I
And
don't
what does
see
he
that.
say, VP? You can sit here and you can answer this question, and this will put an end to this whole conversation. Anytime I say Mike McCarthy is a bad coach, EJ turns around and says he won a Super Bowl in the past, and it doesn't matter because
Does he have
you
a
guys are
losing
winning.
record with the Cowboys?
Where does
No.
record come in? We're talking about discipline. We're talking
I'm
about
talking.
discipline.
I've talked
Cowboys
about
had winning
everything.
records before him.
I'm talking about everything, bro.
Cowboys had winning records.
I'm talking
before
about
him.
everything. The Jets have been one of the worst teams in
EJ,
the
you're
AFC.
moving the
No, I'm not. You're
goalpost.
not.
You're moving the
goalposts.
goalposts.
You're moving the goalposts because you want to focus on one thing
The
that I
Jets,
said.
the Jets are a bad team because they're a bad team. The Cowboys are a good team because they're a good team. They both have
That
bad
doesn't even
coaches.
make sense.
Period. End of story.
That doesn't even make sense. Doesn't
That
make
doesn't
mean,
make
you could-
sense.
No,
I think you could be
The Cowboys, listen, if you just shut up for 1 second and listen instead of talking over me, you'll hear what I'm saying. The Cowboys had a winning record before Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys have a winning record with Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys will have a winning record after Mike McCarthy. The Jets
don't
had a
agree
losing
with you.
record before Robert Saleh, and the Jets have a losing record now with Robert Saleh. And it's the likelihood that they'll have a losing record after Robert Saleh. The case is you guys have a bad team and a bad organization. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Okay.
You have a bad coach. I agree with you.
Again,
We have a
you
bad
wanna,
coach, but we have a good
all right,
owner.
I heard you. I heard what you said. And again, you want to harp on the one thing that I said when I said holding them accountable. What I said was this guy is not a leader of men. He doesn't hold them accountable. He's too player friendly. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's a defensive coordinator that should have not have been promoted to be a head coach. Point blank, period. Your coach, however, has a Super Bowl fucking track record.
With who?
With Green Bay.
Right. Not with the Cowboys.
Doesn't matter. Again,
he won the Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl with arguably,
I let you talk.
arguably the best quarterback at that time.
I let you talk. Now listen to me. My point is, right, this guy has shown that he has the pedigree to win with less. Okay?
Who?
So
who?
Again, he won with Green Bay with less talent than he has with y'all.
Aaron Rodgers is less talent? Aaron Rodgers
year
was less than Dak Prescott?
Aaron Rodgers
worse than
So we're just going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Your defense is stacked.
Jordy
Your
Nelson
offense is stacked. Jordy Nelson compared to CeeDee Lamb?
Clay Matthews?
Shut up.
Clay Matthews,
Micah Parsons. So
these guys were
shut
bums
up.
then, right?
Shut up.
That's what you're saying?
Shut up.
That's what you're saying?
Stop.
That's what you're saying.
Stop it.
You're blaming Robert Saleh. Okay, you'll be done and you'll be muted. That's what's gonna happen. But you're not gonna keep talking over me. There you go. You're not gonna keep talking over me.
You wouldn't let me finish. You tell it. You interjecting while I'm.
So, like I said, you're not gonna keep talking over me like that. That's not how this is gonna happen.
You talked over me.
So, VP, like we were saying, the only game that makes sense that has any playoff implications that are super important right now is the Dolphins at the Bills. How do you feel about your Dolphins today?
As well as the Jags. Don't because the Jags haven't locked up that division yet either.
Well, the Cowboys haven't locked up their division either, but
they're in. But the Jags aren't even in.
Jags aren't
in. Yeah, they got to also win.
But if the Jags win, do they win their division or do they just get into the AFC?
For the Jags, they clinched the division title with a win or a tie yesterday. So basically, they just need a win. So for them, it's win or go home today.
And they win the division.
Yeah, if they win the division and they're in the playoffs. If they lose, I think Houston wins the division, and then Jags
Yeah,
don't make the
Houston.
playoffs.
Okay, so that means Houston, no matter what, will be in the playoffs because they won yesterday.
Right.
It's just whether or
They
not they're
clinched
going to
the
win the
berth yesterday.
division. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
And so Jacksonville plays Tennessee today. Is that game in Jacksonville or Tennessee?
That game is in Jacksonville. Where are you? That game is in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay. Well, they said Trevor Lawrence is going to play today. We got that's a 1 o'clock game, right?
No, that's a 1 o'clock on
That's a
CBS.
1 o'clock game. All right. So we'll know by the end of the 1 o'clock games if Buffalo has a chance at making the playoffs.
Right.
Well, if
So,
they have a chance
yeah.
of not making the playoffs, rather getting knocked
Right.
out of the playoffs. Okay. All right. You had some other games that were that you had circled on the list that were important to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, the ones yesterday are Pittsburgh and Houston. Congrats to them. The Bucks Panther game matters today because the Bucks are not locked in yet either, so they need to win that game to get in. Also, Baker Mayfield has just over $3 million in incentives that he can lock up today with a nice performance. Green Bay still got something to play for today. Seahawks got something to play for today.
You think Tampa Bay brings Baker Mayfield back next year?
Yes, absolutely. I think today is a big game for Baker Mayfield. There's literally about $40 million on the line today for Baker. And what I mean is that he could get those incentives that I talked about a moment ago based on how he performs today. Then when they go into contract negotiations, because he's only on a 1-year deal, Baker's going to want something like 3 years, maybe 100 million, something like that, 50, 60 million guaranteed. And they're probably not going to get in bed with him long term that way. So they may end up just franchising him. And the franchise tag next year is estimated to be about $36 million. So today, Baker's
you don't think they would tag Mike Evans if he don't sign? Mike Evans is in that position this year too. That's where it gets. So I think it gets tricky for Tampa this year. I think they're gonna have to sit down and have a real conversation.
Yeah.
With those guys.
But but they had a lot of dead cap this year too because of Brady's contract. So
that's right.
This year and even making the playoffs this year, being in cap hell is a testament on its own. So next year they should be a little bit more flexible because they're taking care of that dead cap now. So they may be able to take care of Mike Evans and then just franchise Baker.
So I see what the NFL did. They put the Atlanta game, the New Orleans game, and the Tampa Bay game are all at 1 o'clock. And based on the outcomes of those will determine who wins that division. And then they also put the Minnesota and Detroit game, which is not, it's not a major player. Minnesota can get in, but it's, they put the Green Bay game at 4 o'clock. So they can also impact Green Bay. So if Minnesota wins against Detroit, who's sitting all of their starters, allegedly, that's what they've said. And if they win and Green Bay loses, then Minnesota gets into the playoffs. Man, there's a lot of scenarios for the NFC.
No. Minnesota needs a lot of work. So I don't think Minnesota gets in because Minnesota, they got to win, and then they need Green Bay, Seattle,
and Tampa Bay to lose. Or Green Bay, Seattle, and New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mike Evans is not going to be coming back to Tampa unless they sign him long term.
They should be able to.
They should be able to, but do they? Like Evans, how old is he? 31 now?
Probably about 30, 31.
Tell you in 1 second.
I might be putting a year or two on his. Mike Evans, he's 30.
30.
Yeah, he'll be 31 by the time
the
season starts. Right. So
they're gonna have to back up the truck for him.
You think he gets a long-term deal? You think he gets something
Absolutely
like
not.
Right? Like I'm thinking maybe a 3-year deal, but I'm not giving him a lot. And even 3 years at a 30-year-old receiver.
Devontae Adams just got
that's
big
true.
money.
Yeah,
That's
And
I
true.
mean,
and Mike Evans
maybe you
don't.
give him 3 years and you like heavily front load the guaranteed money so you can walk away after year 2.
A desperate team like the Jets will jump out the gym for him, and he doesn't miss. He's quarterback proof.
Yeah, I think and that's the thing too with Mike Evans is Tom Brady going there is the worst thing to possibly happen to Tampa Bay. Great, they won a Super Bowl, but now long term, Mike Evans has his ring, right? So he'll leave for a team that's not a contender. He'll leave for the money, or he'll leave for, you know what I mean? It's not like he's only gonna go to a contender or he's gonna stay home. He'll go to
Right.
a Jets team where he can be the number 1.5 or 1A, 1B to Garrett Wilson, or he'll go to a Chicago team where him and DJ Moore can do work with, whatever they do, or he can go to Los Angeles. There's a lot of teams, where he can land and be all right.
I think your Super Bowl point is valid, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to look at it when you look at the market. I mean, VP always try to stress this to you. When you look at what Devontae Adams got and what this guy has got, and he's been fairly injury. He's had a couple, but this guy doesn't miss. Like, he's QB proof. And every year he's proved it year in, year out. And his logic might be, I need to get paid for once, number one. And number
Yeah.
two, who can get me the ball to where I can even, do better numbers and cement my career going down the back end. How much do I have to do without carrying a team? He's been carrying Tampa for how long now? I want
This
to go
guy
somewhere I can get money.
he should absolutely get paid. Tampa should have gotten the deal done last year or before this year started, is what I mean. This guy's had 1,000 yards every single year of his career.
Right. And then the thing too, when you look at him, like I just pulled up his current contract, and his current contract was for 5 years, 82.5. But you look at receivers now, Tyreek got 5 and 100 mil. Devontae got 5, 100 plus mil, and on and on and on with these guys. And he's probably like, yo, I'm in that same class, and I haven't really got my, like, this year he's gonna make this year he's scheduled to make $14.5 million this season. Tyreek Hill makes almost $30 million. You know what I'm saying? So he's probably
Yo,
like,
imagine
yo, I gotta
imagine
get paid.
thinking 14 imagine thinking 14 million in a year is not a lot in
I
any
gotta be able to
profession.
feed my
In any
kids.
profession.
Isn't that how much
Imagine
it
that,
was when the Charles pre-roll? It was like 14 million with the Knicks. I gotta be able to feed my kids.
bruh. He's
Oh my god.
he'll be 31. Right now he's got 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns with Baker Mayfield. I think he
Yeah.
ends this. I think he ends the year with 15 touchdowns, regular season touchdowns. 'Cause I think he's going to catch 2 today against Carolina. I think he gets another 100 yards, so he's going to be at about 1,315 touchdowns. They should have paid him. They
Yeah.
should have paid him.
Maybe
And
we know
don't be
how the NFL
surprised,
works, though.
right? And don't be surprised if you don't see him end up in Buffalo, pending whatever the hell's going on with Diggs.
Stephon Diggs ain't doing himself any favors either, though. Like, you can't be a locker room headache and not perform. Like, I get he's trying to blame it, elsewhere, but also at the same time, let's be honest. They changed up that offense and started running the ball, which is what people have been saying for years. And now James Cook is eating, and Buffalo looks great. They don't look good. They look really, really, really good. So Diggs is mad, and I get it. He's validated at some sense, but you still got to go out there and perform and try to perform, especially if you want to be, held as one of the top receivers.
Well, he's been that guy. He was that guy in Minnesota. We just didn't pay much attention because it was
Yeah.
Minnesota. And his brother
VP
is the
called that out.
same.
I remember him calling that out.
His brother's the same way. His brother can't keep himself out of the bullshit, sitting there posting and tweeting stupid shit. My brother should come over here doing all this controversial shit. Like, and then you get hurt and you got shit going on. Like, some of these guys just can't get out their own way. And the Diggs brothers, they're from this area, hot-headed kids, think they're all world. And let's be real. You know, your career was dead in the water before you went and got with Josh Allen because motherfuckers didn't want to deal with him. Buffalo took the flyer on him and said, you know what, we're gonna work with him. We're gonna put him with Josh Allen, and it's been cool, right? But when Josh Allen doesn't get him the ball, he's fucking crying. Not to mention, you got one of the quote unquote best quarterbacks in the league who has elevated, who continue to elevate your career. It didn't take a drop; it got elevated. You could have went somewhere else. So, you know, I get it. To that point, we'll see.
A lot of these receivers got to relax because you got AJ Brown doing the same type of thing over there in Philly. And, you know, I get it. He started the year strong and it's kind of gone a little bit downhill, but he did the same thing in Tennessee. And that's why he ended up in Philly. Like, you can't do this everywhere you go. And, you know, this is the Antonio Brown effect. These guys are starting to look real Antonio Brownish. And the thing is, Antonio Brown's not doing them any favors because he's on the sideline acting wild. And now owners and coaches are going to be worried about, is this guy going to turn out like him? Do I want him on my team for him to turn out like Antonio Brown?
Well, wide receivers have always been divas. I mean,
I was just gonna
and
say
that's just the position. And I mean, T.O., as much as I love T.O. was really the one that
His was a
busted
little
his
validated
open.
though. T.O. was just basically saying, yo, my dude, we're not winning. I'm the star. Throw me the ball.
Which team you talking about is the question.
I think everywhere he went, except for the 49ers.
No, because that was where it started. He went out there with Jeff Garcia, killed Jeff Garcia, even talked about Jeff Garcia's sexuality and manhood, and went hard at that dude. And then, you know, went to Philly, right, where Donovan McNabb was the problem from the beginning. And then he goes to Dallas and continues on. So I mean, this is what the wide receiver group is about. These are how these people are wired. They want the ball. They think they should always have the ball. You know, that's how they get down. And I mean, AJ Brown, honestly, can you blame him though? When you got Jalen Hurts who's throwing interceptions left and right.
I'd be more mad if I was a running back. Like, I don't understand these running backs that sit behind a Cam Newton, a Jalen Hurts, even a Josh Allen, that are like, yo, I'm trying to get paid here. And you are hawking all my, like, every time they're on the half-yard line, I know DeAndre Swift is standing over there like, come on, dog. Like, just give me one. Yeah. Every time. It's crazy.
The problem is they don't get paid like them. They're not valued. They're not valued like wide receivers.
Right. And I think the problem with wide receivers is that, you know, the quarterback got the ball in their hand every play. The running back position has plays that are designed specifically for them. Whereas when I'm the receiver, I got to hope the quarterback sees me, you know, and then you have guys who are saying, yo, I'm open. Even when I'm not open, I'm open. You know, you've heard receivers say that before, you know, and, you know, a quarterback is looking and saying, I don't see it, where they're saying like, dude, I'm open. What are you looking at? Throw me the ball. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm dependent on this guy to get me the ball so that way I can do numbers in order to get a contract. And this guy is not finding me, and he's literally like taking money out of my pocket, you know? So I can see it from both standpoints, because for Stefon Diggs, we would say, dude, y'all running the ball and y'all winning. Like, what the fuck are you complaining about? But then he's thinking like, yo, one, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. And this dude's not letting me do numbers, which means he's fucking up my next situation, you know?
Even Randy Moss, if you go back to him, throw me the damn ball. Just throw me the damn ball. That's how these guys are wired. Wide receivers are just wired that way. And, you know, as teams, you got to understand that. You got to have a coach that can manage that. And clearly in Philly, when you talk about AJ Brown, that team clearly doesn't respect Nick Sirianni, because they said they went out there and freestyled the play off script and he was just okay with it. I mean, I don't know. And Jalen Hurts isn't playing good as a quarterback. He's just not.
Sirianni is a shitty coach. I think we all said that at the beginning of the year. Him losing both of those coordinators was going to be big. And, you know, they came out hot, 9-1 or 9-0, 10-0, 10-1, I believe, is where they, you know, where it kind of turned a little bit. And now they don't know how to deal with adversity. And if you don't have the coaches, you don't have the coordinators, you don't have the position coaches to adjust, you're just bringing in talent. They're bringing in tons and tons of talent. Every time you turn around, they got somebody new. And on paper, they look like they should be, the clear cut run, like between them and San Fran, but you just don't have a guy that's leading them that knows how to. They're not. You don't have a Phil Jackson, basically.
I would disagree with that a little bit, and what I would say is last year, I don't think the Eagles team was particularly that good, but they won a lot of games and they made the Super Bowl. So everything that was a flaw was just brushed over because, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And so you could say this team is this, is that, it's not this, it's not that good, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, they're in the Super Bowl. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? You sound like an idiot. You sound like a hater, Now, this year, yeah, the coordinators are gone, but they're still doing the same shit they was doing last year. But this year, it ain't working. You know what I mean? And now they're also not winning. So I remember, maybe week 8, week 9, I was like, this Eagles team reminded me of the Minnesota team the year before, where it's like, yeah, they're 9-1, but they don't look 9-1. And it finally caught up with them. Now they're losing games like crazy. And then people are like, is this team really that good? Should they have paid Jalen Hurts, a guy who only had one good year? Should they have made him come back one more year, like a prove it year, and then see what happens? And here we are. We're gonna face that same dilemma because I'm pretty sure this offseason Tua wants to be paid. And you got a lot of Dolphins fans, myself included, saying I think we should make him come back one more year.
Nah, he's getting paid.
No, he's gonna get paid. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm saying for my personal preference, it would be, let's see how you do. We already picked up the 5th-year option. Let's do one more year. You know what I mean? But it is what it is.
I think you're 100% right, VP. When you look at this Eagles team, they didn't have a lot of depth in their secondary. They suffered outside of one cornerback. Their linebacker play was not good. They drafted probably the defensive rookie of the year in Jalen Carter and the interior line, but they don't have anyone on the edge that was a world beater. Their offensive line, Travis Kelce, is old.
They got Hassan Reddick over there.
Again, not a world beater. To me, I mean, Hassan Reddick does one thing. It's a speed edge rusher. He doesn't do anything for you in a run heavy NFC East. And then you got Kelce at center, who's aging, who was considering not even coming back. Then you got Lane Johnson at right tackle, who's hurt when it counts the most.
And he always holds. He gets away with it.
They don't really have all of that. And then you got Smith as the other receiver, who is still young, second year, I think, still trying to figure out what he does as a receiver. And then Jalen Hurts is atop the league in interceptions.
Yeah, I think this is year 3 for Smith.
The problem is
Waddle in the same class.
The problem is they don't know that Devontae Smith is their number 1 wide receiver. That's their problem. They're trying to force AJ Brown into being their number 1 guy, and Devontae Smith is open way more than AJ Brown. And I get it; they could say it's because of the double teams and all of that stuff, but Devontae Smith is open, and he don't miss. I think
he also was one of the most wide receivers with the most drops this year too, though, or the last couple years. I think he's been the top 5 to top 10 most wide receiver drops.
I'd have to
which
see
is
the stats
also a problem.
I'd have to see the stats on that. I don't know if that's accurate. I need the stats on that. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb are the 2 leaders in wide receiving right now. CeeDee Lamb 1651, Tyreek has 1717. So he's up on him by about 66 yards, give or take. Tyreek has a bit of a matchup today. Is it possible that CeeDee Lamb passes Tyreek Hill in yards today, VP? Unmute yourself.
I'm gonna say no. I think Tyreek does about 70, and that should be enough with what he already got.
That's not enough. If he only does 70, if he only does 70, that's not enough. CeeDee gonna have 150 today.
But the reason why I say that is that, one, I don't think the Cowboys starters play the whole game. So
you could be right.
I think this game is probably in the bag mid 3rd quarter, and we're seeing Trey Lance or Cooper Rush or one of those guys playing.
I'd like to see Trey Lance. That's a good point. Tyreek. So here's my problem. Here's my thing.
Whereas Tyreek is gonna have to play the whole game.
Yeah, you're right. My thing with Tyreek is 70 yards seems low. Like 70 yards for a lot of wide receivers is a really good game. Most wide receivers, that's a good game. Tyreek, when he hit 70, like I was watching Hard Knocks and I think he had 79 last week against Baltimore. And I was like, oh, look, that's why they lost. Like this guy had 79 yards and I think he had like 8 catches. It was like 8 for 79 or something crazy. And I'm like, oh, well,
7
that's
for
why they
79.
lost. 7 for 79. And I'm like, that's why they lost. This guy, he's something else, man. He's something else.
Yeah. But also too, what I would argue is, I don't know if this is a McDaniel thing or a Tua thing. I think Tua forces the ball to Tyreek too much, and I mean you got to give the ball to your best guys. Don't get me wrong, but like you look at that interception Tua threw last game where he threw a ball into Tyreek who had 4 defenders around him, and I get it, like you are confident in your accuracy, but that's I mean if one player has 4 guys around him, somebody else is open. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe 2 people open.
Exactly. And so, it comes back to that thing that Tom Brady said to Josh Allen on his podcast. And he's like, as a quarterback, sometimes you got to fit it into tight windows. That's just the nature of the game. But sometimes you can throw it to a guy who's more open, get a little bit less yards, and then you live for the next play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the last thing I have on the Dolphins is McDaniel. He is a player's coach, I think, to EJ's point. But he's just different. I've been watching. I caught up on Hard Knocks a couple days ago. I watched all of them because I hadn't seen any of them, and I like this guy. I like McDaniel a lot. I like the way that he gets involved in practice. I like where he's, he lines up, he goes to all the positions. I'm sure all the coaches do this, but I think because he's young and shape and stuff like that, sometimes you see him out there running and he's in the middle of the play and stuff. I commend him for that. And I think we had a conversation about what it looks like for him for next year. And you were concerned or saying that you don't know whether he'll be back depending on what happens this year. I think he's back.
No. I think he's back next year. But I think if we don't win the division,
you said he's in the hot seat.
He's going to be on the hot seat next year, I think, because
that's what you said.
The questions are going to be asked on, is this guy, because he calls the offense, you know what I mean? So even though we have an offensive coordinator, Frank Smith, McDaniel calls the offense. So it's like, is this guy a hot coordinator or is he a head coach? Because last year he said, I'm struggling with running the ball. I got to make sure I run the ball more. We come in this year, we're not running the ball enough. And then, you have periods of times where things are happening that shouldn't happen, like where we don't finish the Tennessee game. If we finish that Tennessee game, we've already won the division this year. You know what I mean? Baltimore has to play this week because the division is not locked up yet at this point or whatever, because depending on what we do today and what they had done against Pittsburgh, it would the AFC number 1 seed probably would have been in contention still. The whole narrative about not beating good teams and things like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just
that's the same thing for McCarthy.
There's times
if we don't lose to Arizona,
stagnant.
But the thing about it is, you could be a player's coach, but I think the difference with Mike McCarthy is that people don't understand that when you're coaching NFL players, and I've said this to y'all 1,000 times, the older people get in sports, the less fundamental, the less knowledgeable they become. And the difference with this guy, Mike McDaniel, when it comes to offensive detail, he's very detailed and he's very empowering. And he shows these guys that he's knowledgeable of what he's doing. When I look at a guy like Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator, who doesn't know much about the other side of the ball, Mike McDaniel is plugged in with his coaches. He's plugged in with both sides. He understands how he calls the game impacts the other side of the ball. And sometimes he's shown that he doesn't, but I at least give him credit for standing on the things that he believes in. And in this league, you've got to show people that you have an idea of what you're doing, because these guys are grown men. They're not going to follow you. They're not going to play as hard for you. They're not going to have as much respect for you if you're not showing them, or at least have the track record to say you know what you're doing. And guys will call that shit out. They will feel it and they will call it out. And what you see happening with Mike McDaniel, he's turned this team that was led by a defensive guy, hard-nosed guy, and he said something very distinct most recently. He said he coaches guys to their strengths, not to my system that I want them to be. And that's the problem with a lot of these teams. You have talented guys, but you want to stick to your system. You want to stick to how you play call. Nathaniel Hackett, as the offensive coordinator of New York Jets, recently, he said, I didn't know Breece Hall was that much of a big play threat. So next year we're gonna work him into being more of a receiver, one-on-one with linebackers. This guy at Iowa State ran a 4.2 40, was one of the best running backs in college football. Big play, one cut go guy, and you didn't know how good of a receiver he could be? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I think with him also, he was coming off an injury. People didn't expect him to be back as quickly. I think they tried to use kid gloves with him in camp, and then he came out and he was good, and that's why Dalvin Cook is where he is, and didn't get used this year. But the one thing that did stick out to me for McDaniel, was after that loss to Baltimore. His first instinct was finding a way to make these guys move on from it, right? It was the soft skills, the human side of it. And I think that's important with coaches, and I'm sure that most of them do that, if not all. But it was really evident that was his first thing that he was thinking of.
What stood out for me, what he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, where most guys want us to forget about this, he said, no, remember this and take this as a learning experience. Where you're taught, most coaches will say, last week was last week, it's dead, forget about it. Mike McDaniel made it a point to say to Tua, he said, no, don't run away from this. Embrace this and learn from this. And again, I think to your point, whether you call it soft skills, I call it just embracing the fact that you still have to coach professional men to understand what their role is. And I think we don't give enough credence to the coaching. We just think that just talent and these guys just put it all together. That's not how it works. And to his credit, that was exactly the message I would have wanted to have as a player.
I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. My whole point about McDaniel being on the hot seat is simply that I feel like the owner is going to look at it like, I've spent a shit ton of money bringing in guys like Jalen Ramsey, Tyree, Bradley Chubb, the guys who we already have on the roster that we paid. And, last year, we thought, okay, this team is ready, but then Tua got injured. Okay, cool. Shit happens. Now this year, he's been here the whole season. Yeah, we've had some injuries, but then going into the tail end of the season, we had a 3-game lead on Buffalo, and now we have to go into week 18 to fight for the division. And at some point, questions about the coach is going to be asked. I don't think nothing happens this year, but I think if we don't win the division, I think he's going to be on the hot seat next year. And then depending on what happens, that could be his job.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well,
on the hot seat part,
if you guys win the division, it's going to be next year is going to be a tough year too, because then you're going to play all the number ones. No matter what happens, how this year ends, when you go outside of the division, you're going to play all the people that won the division. So it's going to be a tougher schedule than it was this year. Similarly for us, if we win the division, which hopefully, all things go well. Very confident that we will, though. All right, I think that's all I got on football. Anything else on football?
I don't think so.
Go Cowboys.
I mean, college football, if you pay attention, college football is narrowed down to, Washington and Michigan.
I watched that Michigan. Was it Alabama? Was it Alabama they played?
Yeah. Yep.
Tells you how much I watch college football. I can't remember where they played, but it was a good game. Overtime. Harbaugh, I don't even know the overtime rules of college football. That's how much I realize I don't watch it, because when they went into overtime, I'm like, yo, I didn't even see them throw the ball. How they already in the red zone? Like,
you start on the 25.
Yeah,
It's trash.
Starting at 25, and both teams get a chance to possess it.
Why?
it's been like that for a long time, my friend.
They
Long
need to
time.
change that shit. That shit's
But
gay. Especially now that we got
well,
now that you got playoffs and stuff, like
the logic always was that they're student athletes and they didn't want them to be
keep them
playing
healthy.
too long, and because there used to be regulations on how long these games actually should go. So that's part of the reason that, you know, as non-professional athletes, you can only play a certain amount of time. So that was part of the reasoning. But I mean, I think the bigger discussion is the quarterbacks that might come out, who might go atop the draft and where they might go. Honestly, I've been on record again to say it. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are ready made for the NFL right now. I don't think they're ready to play tomorrow in the NFL. I don't. Some people think Penix and Caleb Williams are. I don't. But somebody in the NFL is going to take them number 1 and number 2. So we'll see.
Well, we said the same. Well, I said the same thing. A lot of people said the same thing about C.J. Stroud, and shout out to them. They're he got it together. Everyone thought Young was the better quarterback, and Stroud looks better. Similarly, I mean Trey Lance, right? Trey Lance was the one that they did say, "Hey, this guy's not NFL ready," and look where he's at. So, I guess it could go either way. Could go either way.
Yeah, Bryce Young ain't got a lot to throw to in Carolina either, though.
Yeah, but so my thing with Bryce Young is he's so nonchalant. He snaps the ball, he waits too long. He holds it before he makes a decision, not so much before throwing it, but he makes this decision to move the pocket and it's too late. The defenders I don't think he realizes that the speed of these guys is so much faster at the NFL level than it was at the college level. And I think that's what shows with him.
Yeah. And earlier you guys were talking about drop passes. Puka actually leads the lead in drops this year with 12. Tyreek's number 2 at 11.
Tyreek is right
and
behind.
then the number 3 is Jackson Smith Jigba, however you say his name, Seattle.
Njigba. Out of Ohio State.
Yeah. I like that kid too. All right. Well, what else? Anything else that we got to talk about today?
I mean, we're at time, but did you guys see the chat?
Which one?
Our chat. The WhatsApp.
I know which chat, fool. You have been more active in the chat than on the pod. There's 3 posts from you in there, 4 posts from you in there since we started podding.
The most recent one, the picture.
Oh, January 6th.
Did you see the picture though?
I put my phone down.
Mine died. My phone's dead. I'm just looking at the computer.
Man.
Somebody said, is that Insurrection Day, National Insurrection Day? Would that be petty if Biden like made that a national holiday? Like not a holiday, but put a name to it.
I mean, they've commemorated it the last 2 years, so again this year. So he kind of is
a day that forever will live in infamy. That's Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think it's one of those things that you gotta like kind of like they say with 9/11, never forget. And I think you gotta
can't ever forget this.
Because
can't ever forget this.
I think a lot of people think like when we were having that debate about Trump in the chat or whatever, and when I say he's dangerous and all these things like that, and people say, well, we have laws in place and the courts and this and that, boo, 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 and what we have to understand when we talk about a leader being dangerous is that you look at the dictators around the world, and most of them were elected the first time, and then after that is when they start all of the shit. They reshape the courts, and some of it just matters about who the lawyers are, right? So you go back to the Iraq War when we were doing, what they call quote unquote enhanced interrogations, right? Or what most people call torture. And it's like torture against the law in the United States. It's against the Geneva Conventions. It's against the rules of war. But we still were doing it. Why? Because the lawyer said, yeah, this is okay. It's fine to not let a person, to only let a person sleep 15 minutes in a 24-hour period. Because you let them sleep. It's okay to simulate drowning, because you didn't actually drown them, and things like that. So if you put people in place who say these things that you're doing is totally legal, and here's the justification of it, when we look at the Constitution sideways and we squint our eye, it makes sense right here, and so that's how you get to these points where somebody is elected and then they become an authoritarian or whatever. And I think that we can't play games with that shit when it comes to a person like a Trump or anyone like him, period.
I would argue in theory, though, that many of those dictators were on paper elected, but they rigged the elections through murder, force, and family, and threats and things that we as the United States are. On the one hand, when we talk about Biden and his trust in democracy, we can't say it doesn't work, like it's supposed to work. We don't have those same problems here. We don't have car bombings, and we don't have politicians' families being held hostage. We don't have those things. So I mean, we have to have a little faith, as our president says, in democracy. We have to have some
Okay,
faith.
so let me push back on you here, because I love that argument, right? And let me tear it down immediately. So one, when you look at how our system works, right? We don't have one national election system. We have 50 election systems in all 50 states, right? And whoever your election officials are in the local areas in the state matters. So you look at a state like Wyoming, for example, right? Now Biden doesn't have a shot at winning Wyoming, so it's not like this. What I'm getting ready to say, it's like a huge thing. But this thing that I'm getting ready to describe is taking place in other states. You have a person in Wyoming who won the Secretary of State's race. The Secretary of State in the state in our government is in charge of elections. This person is a 2020 election denier, right? You go to Arizona in Cochise County, right, which is one of the swing counties in Arizona. That's a county that's going to decide which way the state of Arizona goes. Where the I'm sorry, not Arizona, Nevada, in Reno. This person is going to be the county top election official, who's also a November or a 2020 election denier. Now, this person has said, "Oh, the machines are rigged, so we need to do hand recounts." Hand recounts are the worst way to count ballots, because all three of us can count something and get different numbers, which is why they use the machine, so we have something more accurate. You know what I mean? These people in Wyoming, the person in Nevada, have talked about, oh, we should be able to throw votes out if we think something's wrong with them and things like that. And this is how you get to elections potentially being rigged. And you have a person who wants to have some kind of authoritarian ilk to them come into power.
But you said you was going to tear it down. You just supported my point. We don't have a national election, whereas in a country like a Panama, where Manuel Noriega was holding people hostage and car bombing Colombia, Venezuela, these places where if you don't do what the national government or the party that's in power wants you to do something, they're chopping your head off. You're talking about voter tampering, and we have that, absolutely. But in the spirit of democracy, we are not like many of these countries that have dictators. We're not.
Right.
This is a
But I'm
fact.
saying, the point that I'm making is that in order to get there, you have to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah, but this is
Now,
also what the right says. When you leftist people try to make it seem like we're in a fucking communist country where the fucking political parties are beating down people's door and making them sign ballots. This is where y'all get off the rails. We're not Russia. We're not Venezuela. We're not these countries. We're not. And if the people,
okay.
unfortunately, if the people vote for Trump, there are a lot of motherfuckers that decided to do that. And that's just
So
what it is.
so the reason I push back on stuff like this, EJ, is yeah, we're not having car bombings and that kind of thing there, right? But we have people who call in bomb threats all the time. We just seen the Michigan state capitol had to be evacuated because somebody was making bomb threats against it. That happened last week, right? We see election workers in Georgia like Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, who literally had people show up to her home. The FBI called her and was like, "You have to go. You need to get out of the house right now and don't come back because people are coming after you." And she left, and then people started protesting at her house, and this woman thought she could potentially be killed. Why? because she had the audacity to count ballots at a doing her civic duty, essentially. You know what I mean? And so while those things are not necessarily happening today, the seeds are being planted and the groundwork is being laid for them to happen. We don't get to January 6th out of the blue. You
No,
know what I
you're
mean?
right.
That
You're
shit
right.
started from somewhere. You
You're
know what I
right.
mean? And all of these things start. Yeah, I get what you're saying with the
You're right.
whole
You're
the
right.
actual
And
murder and things like that.
you're right. And the pushback that me and Steve will have to the Democratic Party, knowing that this shit happens, why does our commander in chief continue to err on the side of caution if it is what it ain't? If you know that this shit is barreling down the way that it could be, that this authoritarian right wing monster is building and planting its seeds, why won't you do the right thing and do what you said you were going to do for the people? Where we've said a million times, we don't really know his power to really just get rid of student loans and ask for forgiveness later. Give what the people, we've said that. Give the people
No,
what they want. Give the people what they want, right? And ask for forgiveness later, right?
no, I got you.
Fight fire with fire for once. Why, if all of these things that you and the many of Democrats are saying, because a lot of think pieces are saying the same thing you are, why do we continue to have a commander in chief that wants to err on the other side as if the other side is going to do the right thing? That's all I want to know.
No, and I think I didn't know you were gonna go there with student loans. I guess I should have assumed, but
You better
I think
fucking know it.
think that I think that the reason why is, and I think that it's the wrong reason, actually, is that Biden is an institutionalist, and he's one of these people who think that the system will hold, right? And we have this system in place, and as bad as Trump is, the system will check his worst impulses, right? And that's why I made the point earlier about it matters who's in the government. You know what I mean? Because the last time, right, when Trump is saying he's calling these secretaries of state and these board of canvassers and things like that at the county level, and saying we need to throw out these votes, and telling the Georgia Secretary of State, find me 11,780 votes or whatever, which is the one more that he needed to win. Those people held the line and said no. You know what I mean? But now those people have been removed, and you have people who are in the place now to say, when he says, "Hey, I need you to find me 11,000 votes,"
Yeah,
they probably don't even need to be told.
The sum
They
of
probably
all fears. The sum of all fears. And I get what you're saying, but
No.
my thing is, again, why can't we have a president at this point in time with all of the experience he's had, even when he was Obama's vice president? Why do you still think the institution is gonna win long term?
I don't get it. I told you I disagree with it. Or I don't believe in.
And to me, that's the difference of why Trump will even be relevant, because I think if Joe just threw out that mindset and really just as a party grew some nuts and did what we needed to do for the people, we wouldn't even have to worry about this fucking guy.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, right? I believe in institutions, right? But institutions are populated by people, and people have their own thoughts and their own ideas, and that's what's going to turn the trick at the end of the day. Is who is sitting atop those institutions is why it's going to matter, right? Because you look at something as simple as after the election in 2020, right? This is a part of what happens during a transition that nobody pays attention to unless you're some political nerd like me, right? So usually after the election, the day after, maybe 2 days after or whatever, the person who was the director of the GAO, which is the Government Accountability Office, they're the part of the government, Steve, that like does like a lot of our contracts and things like that, like government leases and those kind of things. Usually the director usually sends a letter, what's called a letter of ascertainment, to the candidate that won, and they essentially say, "Hey, I'm sending you this letter of ascertainment, recognizing that it looks like you have won the election, even though the Electoral College hasn't voted yet. And so we're going to get the ball rolling on getting you in the government. So start sending us names of your people so we can start the background checks to get them their security clearances for the people who are going to be in jobs and need security clearances. We're going to start getting you guys like government emails and getting you guys laptops and Blackberries and all that kind of thing like that." The president-elect usually has a transition office, so that the GAO goes out and then rents a government office building for the president-elect and the staff to work out of, so that way the government is paying for that, and they don't have to use the campaign money for that anymore, because sometimes some of them don't have any more campaign money. So just that process was delayed by like 6 weeks for Biden. So once Biden gets in office, a lot of his staff can't even come on board because they don't even have security clearances yet. Because that's how backed up this whole thing was, because the woman who was the head of the GAO under Trump would not send Biden the letter of ascertainment until like mid-December. You know what I mean? And so that's my point when I say, at the end of the day, yeah, I want strong institutions, but institutions are only strong as the people who are in them.
Sounds like they took a stand, or tried to take a stand at least. We just didn't like it. Democrats just didn't like it. That's it. They just didn't like it. He went out and basically was like, "Yo, listen, I'm not leaving. I ain't fucking leaving." You want me out here, kick me out.
And I mean, VP has a strong point, and that might be year 1, year 2. But I mean, at some point, Joseph, at some point, you have to get rid of this ideal. Like my uncle would always say, you think it is what it ain't. Yeah, we want it to be the person in that position should be a good American citizen and turn it over and do the right thing. It is what it ain't, bruh. What are you gonna do now that you had time to sit down in this position? You had Kamala out here resurging black votes. If you don't vote for me, you're not black, etc., etc. And the one thing that black people need you to do most, because we suffer the most from student loans, right? The working class of black folks, you don't do anything. You give us these bullshit little things that we were already getting if we were already paying for 30 years and all this bullshit. Go out there, let your nuts hang, and say, you know what, black people, all your shit forgiven. We out here. Vote for me. That would work. But nah, he's too scared. He's too scared. Hence why you're gonna have me and Steve. You gotta have me and Steve on here at least once a week saying something about student loans. Make this the student loans podcast.
I don't think it would work anyway. And the reason why I say that is that let's say he did that and then the courts overturned it, right? And then, so it still doesn't happen. So basically the way it just went. I think people would still say he didn't do shit, even though
that ain't the way it just went. That ain't the way it just went, though.
Right. That's not the way it just went.
That's exactly how
let's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. He tried to follow the rules. He tried to play, Mr. Political guy. I'm gonna make history guy, because that's all he cares about is making history. I put a black person here. I put a black person there. I put a black person there, and I made history. That's all Biden is worried about, is making history and going down in the history books. And they're not gonna put him in there, because they're gonna end up losing the damn election, because he want to be out here riding his bike and falling, and people don't have any confidence in him doing shit. Like,
and motherfuckers as citizens are looking like this is the last round of how much money you gave to Ukraine.
And not only that, and even let's take Ukraine out of it, right? The whole thing that's happening with
Palestine,
the Gaza Strip, like there's no right or wrong side on that when it comes to politics. There's not in Americans and politics, because you got half of the people, or a good portion of people, that stand on one side and the other portion that stand on the other side.
So to your mom's question about you paying them back again, you might have been one of those people. You're one of the few that might have been informed and understanding of how they work and how they're paid, and you may not have a lot. But the problem is there have been a lot of people in this nation from the black and brown community that were uneducated, and they basically were getting into predatory loans. You're giving people $200,000 to $300,000 worth of student loans on professions will never pay the dividends to pay them back. They don't consider your cost of living wage. They don't consider all your other things. From the time you might have went to school to what it is now, it's way more expensive. Families are more expensive. Families aren't together. People are doing things by themselves. You have to adjust to the living of your nation. And I mean, if we're going to be a nation that stands on doing things for its people and we have the money to do so, you can't tell me that we can fund so much into defense, but we can't fund so much into our people. And it's just the evolution of the way things need to be. I mean, while you might have had a lot of people of your generation that were educated and they understood, there's a lot more after y'all that we were just being pushed to go to college without any understanding of how things work. And we can say, you know, it is what it is and we should have known better. The reality is our people are hurting. We've just suffered a national health crisis that we haven't seen in over 100 years. Okay, so let's just say that's unprecedented in itself. There are people that still don't even have jobs from that situation. So it's a lot of different factors that it just comes
Even
into
be,
it.
but even beyond that, regardless of what those who did and those who didn't, and why it should and it shouldn't, it's a promise that was made. You ran on this. You stood on this as a politician and said, "Hey, I'm different from everybody else." It's just like women say, men come up to them and say, "I'm not like every other man you had." Joe Biden came up and said, "I'm not like everybody else." Men say the same
You're
thing.
black.
Hey, I got this woman and says, that comes out and says that she don't be out in the streets. Right? But if she go out and she be out in the streets, then he gonna be mad. Joe Biden came in there and said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this for you people. I'm taking care of you people. If you don't choose me, you on the wrong side of the color,
You're not
the
black.
color strip. You're not
You're
black
not black.
if you don't choose me."
Joe
One of
said,
the
I
biggest
recognize there's a disparity. We've been doing y'all wrong for centuries. We understand y'all behind the 8 ball. If you don't vote for me, you're not black because I'm going to take care of this for you. Stand on business. And he didn't do it.
So I mean, I'm in agreement with Judy in the chat. I told you guys this, like, I paid back my student loans, and it's why I've always told you guys, and I've said this from the beginning. You know, I've been extremely consistent. I do not support student loan forgiveness in the general sense, right? I understand what it can do for people. I understand what it can do for the economy, etc. My only support of student loan defense is essentially an exercise in political power. You have to show people what you do with power. And so we needed to do it in order to help win more elections. But other than that, I don't really support the policy.
But isn't it kind of the same argument as the healthcare for all that people were making? People on the Republican side were saying, well, I have a job. Why should I have these low income people that don't have jobs getting Medicaid and free health care? Why should my tax dollars pay for that?
and
Well,
welfare and
the crack,
welfare and food
well,
stamps.
the crack epidemic has a lot to do with it. Well, I don't care. I wasn't on crack. I have jobs. I have this. I have that. It's the same argument. Just because somebody got it through higher education and they're crippled in a different way doesn't make it any less different than we should be paying for all. There was the same thing with the healthcare argument.
So my argument isn't the fact that, oh, I paid mine, so you got to pay yours. I don't look at it from that. I'm just making the point that I also paid back my student loan on my own. But the reason that I don't support the policy is that, to EJ's point, there are some people who were taken advantage of, where they went and got predatory loans. They went to predatory institutions like these online places where, hey, you can come earn your 4-year degree in 3 weeks or whatever, and you're going to get this great job. Like, like those online joints and places like that have been sanctioned by the government, those kind of things. I get that, right? But at the same time, we have to exercise some level of personal responsibility, right? If you went to college and you got a 4-year degree in underwater basket weaving and you don't understand why you can't find a job, like, at what point is it the responsibility of your fellow citizens to pick up the tab?
Barry, this is the same argument that Republicans say. You're the one that laid on your back and you have 5 kids with no job. Why should I give you food stamps and health care when you're not doing anything? While on the surface, yes, we're talking about daily needs and things that people need to live. But at the same time, the same argument of why didn't you have discernment, it's crippling working people that want to contribute to society, but they literally can't because the government is saying, we don't give a shit about your debt to income ratio. We don't give a shit that you didn't make the money that you thought you were going to make. And now you're seeing people that should be able to tie themselves up by the bootstraps not being able to. And so again,
These
if we're going to be a nation that cares for all, care for all in every circumstance. Don't try to pick and choose when we should move the goalposts on who should get relief.
these are elitist views. Both sides of that argument are elitist views. That's all it
Absolutely.
is. You feel
Absolutely.
elite to the next person for one reason or another. You feel elite because you're doing fine and you don't have any debt and you're debt free, and somebody else feels elite because they're making the money and they don't feel like they should be giving food stamps to somebody who, it could be a product of their environment, right? You grew up in an environment, you weren't told otherwise, and you ended up doing XYZ. Maybe you can't get a good job because you have a felony. Maybe it's the same as somebody who went to college. Their family didn't have the money and they had to get the loans. Like it's elitism at its highest form. You can't tell me that you want minimum wage raise. You know why people want minimum wage raise? Because they need more money, because they can't afford shit. Why can't they afford shit? Because they got other bills. Part of those bills are student loans. I know it's hard to believe, but there's people out there that went, just like you said, went to college for underwater basket weaving. And guess what? Now their minimum wage is $12, $13, $15. But you guys are saying, oh, let's give them $25. Let's give them $25, but let's not wipe away that debt that they have that's holding them back.
But I do agree in raising the minimum wage, not to know $25, but I mean the minimum wage hasn't been raised since like the mid 90s. It's ridiculous. But
certain states are.
Right.
Yeah,
At the
some
state
states
level,
are
it has
federal,
been.
but it's still, everybody doesn't live in those states to have. But to Steve's point though, right, is that where the responsibility comes in at, like Judy said in the chat, people took out these loans with the expectation that they were going to be repaid. Then nobody takes out a loan for their car and they're like, wait a minute, I gotta pay for this thing. You know what I mean? That's one.
That's not true.
I get in some circumstances you don't got to pay back your loans, like if you were a government worker or you.
No, there's some truth to it. There's some truth to it, but you're also people were given they were given this picture of at 18 years old, some of them at 18, 17, 16 years old. Hey, if you go here, you're going to be financially well off going forward because you're going to have a college degree, right? You go get this college degree, you're going to be able to use the money you make from this amazing degree to pay back those loans. Well, the minute you can't make those loan payments and you have to go provide for your family, now we're going to double and triple the interest. And now that loan that was X amount is now double that amount, triple that amount, 4 times that amount. And here we go. This 80-year-old guy walks up and says, hey guys, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to throw you a fucking bone. I may not be able to get rid of all of it, but I got you. I'm going to give you a little something here. Don't do shit. But then you got the other guy on the other side of things who says, hey, he ain't do shit for you. You should vote for me. And then you wonder why they want to vote for him.
And the thing that we're missing here is, again, we want to generally talk about who might have been bailed out, who didn't have to pay. The large majority of student loans right now are coming from a certain generation from the Black and brown community that was highly uneducated. That's just what it is. We were highly uneducated. We went in there. You got somebody, and the funny thing about it, I see it on social media all the time. There's always these posts about, they'll say a Black woman in Ohio owns the first dairy farm. Like we as a people, we harp on this success story, right? But nobody talks about the journey. So you had all of these Black and brown kids that were the first of their generation to go to a 4-year institution at Ohio State, all of these things, and they didn't get the money that they needed. And now they're $60,000, $70,000 in debt. Or if you're a social worker and you're a social work major and you're in a state like mine, where you can't make over $40,000 to $45,000 unless you go to graduate school, unless you get a graduate license, which they have already deemed in many circumstances are culturally biased. So it's like you're forcing people to get this education, but you're not paying them enough. That's just reality.
So I guess the argument that I'm making is that I get
sprinkle some inflation on that. Just a little bit.
I get what you guys are saying, right? But at the same time, there is still a personal responsibility component to this, right? let me give you an example. When I was going through my journey for trying to get debt free, I was listening to a Dave Ramsey show, and he had a woman who called in who was trying to figure out how she was going to pay off her debt. And this woman was from Florida. She's a teacher. We know how much teachers make, and she was like over $200,000 in debt. And he was like, "You went to law school?" She's like, "Oh no, I'm a teacher." Why is she over $200,000 in debt? Because it was her dream to always go to the University of Michigan. So she went to the University of Michigan, got her teaching stuff, blah, 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 came back to Florida where teachers make no money. But now, you know, she chose to go out of state, pay out of state tuition, have all these student loans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially she's fucked up her life or whatever. Because she made that choice. Like at what
That's
point
not. That's also not just the case, because you also have schools. You have accredited schools that are held at a higher stature as well, right? So if you go to UCF or you go to UF, you're going to get a different caliber of a job than if you were going to a community college.
You shouldn't be penalized to want to go to the best school and have the best experience. And to that point, to Steve's very point of the elitist mentality, when it comes to the woman with 7 kids, no baby father, and she wants welfare, the response is, well, you shouldn't have had the kids. You should have practiced some personal etiquette to not lay down on your back. And to Judy's point, there were not grants available for everyone. You're talking about a time where the government was not providing Pell Grants. They were not giving you that education. And again, the access to resources is all about information. You're talking about a population of people who are first generation students. Many of them don't have this access, don't have this information.
But so you also have an out when you're talking about general debt. So you can't compare this to general debt. When it's general debt and you say, oh, well, if I take a loan or a car out, well, guess what? If I don't want to pay my car or my credit cards, I can either file bankruptcy or I can default on it. You default on your student loans, there's a larger impact to your life on that, because now they're going to garnish your wages. They're going to take your tax return. They're going to impact your way of living moving forward. There's no filing bankruptcy and being okay in 7 years if you're behind in student loans.
I agree.
So you can't compare it.
You can't discharge like in bankruptcy. So I definitely agree with you on that. But when I say like personal responsibility, right, even to the point of EJ makes saying you want to go to the university, your dreams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? To the point that he made about when he was talking about Biden and what his uncle said, right? You want the world that is whatever however the saying went, right? You want it to be how you want it instead of how it is. I'll paraphrase it that way, so I can't remember exactly how he said it, right? So if you're a person who wants to go to college to live out your dream, et cetera, fine. But you also have the option to say, you know what, I'm going to stay my ass at home and do my first 2 years at community college, and then I'll go to the big school and do the last 2 years, still get my college experience, still get to graduate from this university I wanted to go to, and then also still not be insane amounts in debt. You know what I mean? There has to be a personal responsibility component to this. It can't just be that.
But I agree with you, and I understand that, but you can't have it both ways when it then comes to the girl from the hood that has 7 baby fathers.
Because it's different. It's different.
No, how? Nobody told.
This is how.
No,
this
how?
Is how it's
so
different.
how was it no personal responsibility for her to not have 7 different baby fathers?
The difference is that when this woman that you're speaking of is on welfare, they're getting that welfare to take care of the children. The system is saying these.
That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you. I got a better one. Where was the personal responsibility for her after baby number 3, when she couldn't take care of baby number 3, to stop having babies?
There should have been personal responsibility. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, that's it.
But at the same time, the system is saying we're giving you this benefit because these kids, through no fault of their own, still need to eat. They need somewhere to live.
You're right. You're right. And no, you're right in that one. But I got a better one. I got a better one for you. Where comes the personal responsibility when we're talking about abortion? They're saying anti-abortion. You took it upon yourself to go open your legs. You need to go have this baby. Democrats are saying no. She should. It's her rights, her bodies. She should be able to go get rid of this. She should go make it happen. Where's the personal responsibility? It's the same as student loans. when you're talking about
I-
responsibility, personal
with Steve,
responsibility.
where
Now,
I agree
there's
with
difference.
Steve,
I get the whole
right,
that. I don't want to say the word, but
where
you get what I'm talking about.
where I agree
so
with you, Steve, is the elitist thought, right? That because we're talking about caring for a low income person's child, to just assume because this person has a college degree that they're not one step away from being that same parent is blasphemy to me. Because if I'm only making $45,000 and I have a $200,000 debt to this country where you're garnishing my wages, I can't now pay for where I live. I can't now pay for my children, and I have this job. While I have a job, what makes you think I'm not going to now be on welfare? It all
And
impacts itself.
don't be a man with child support on top of that, right? Now you're really against the system. So there's a lot that goes on there, but it's elitist views. The elitist views on both sides or any sides of it is it doesn't impact me, it impacts somebody else, so I don't give a shit about it.
Yep,
And that's the way they look at it. That's how people look
precisely.
at stuff.
So
Precisely.
I don't agree with that last thing Steve said, but let me just go back to this abortion thing real quick. I can't let that go. So what I would argue is, right, one, number one is that it's nobody's choice whether or not this person wants to have an abortion or not. If this person decides that they are not ready to have a child for whatever reason, be it financial responsibility, not being in an emotional place to have a
You're
kid or
you're
whatever.
missing the point. We're
No,
talking
I'm,
about
I'm getting ready to go there.
we're talking about
No.
personal accountability.
I know. I'm getting ready to go there. I'm getting ready. That was I just want to say the first thing. Somebody doesn't want to do it. They don't want to do it. That's up to them. But on the personal, on the personal responsibility aspect, I would say the same thing. Here's a person who's saying, "I'm not ready to have a child, so I'm going to terminate the pregnancy." That's taking personal responsibility.
But what about the people that didn't terminate the pregnancy and now have become a burden to society with their seventh child that they can't take care of after number 3, and they didn't do what's right? To Steve's point, it's elitist on both sides. And if we're this great nation that says, come one, come all, give me your poor, you're hungry, I'm sending trillions of dollars to Israel, I'm sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, the American people don't care about the inner minutia. They know the day to day. I'm a social worker making $50,000. Yeah, I made a mistake, but I'm taking care of this woman who made a mistake as well, keeping 8 children she knew she couldn't take care of, and I'm bleeding and sweating to give her all the resources. But me with a college degree, I can't pay my bills because the government doesn't give a shit that I only make $50,000. Now me and her about to be in the same welfare line. Where's the balance?
I just want to rewind and make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that this was all started by saying, hey, this was something that was promised. This was something that was offered by somebody running for president, right? This was proactively offered. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm here for. I'm going to get this for you guys. I'm going to get this for you guys, and not getting it. And the point that we always make is that other guy that everybody hates, the orange guy that everyone hates, he says and attempts, whether he's successful or not, he attempts to do what his supporters want him to do. Say what his supporters want him to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
He doesn't?
No.
Okay. All right.
The difference is,
so why do you hate him? If you hate Republicans and their thinking, and he doesn't do what Republicans want him to do, then why do you hate him?
So no, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about two different things. So
no. I'm saying what I'm saying is Joe Biden ran on a stance of a few things. Okay. One main thing that EJ always says: you don't vote for me, you're not black. Well, guess what? We still don't have a George Floyd. We could go on and on and on, right? These are all things that impact the Black American community, right? Like Cameron said, I'm not African American. Africans don't even like us. Black American community, right? This is stuff that impacts us. And you told me if I don't vote for you, I'm not black, right?
Okay.
And my point is, he does stuff for the history books, which is not going to be in history books because they're changing them anyway. Nobody's going to read about Joe Biden, putting Ketanji Brown in. That's the history he wants to make. He don't care about what he's doing today. He thinks he's going to impact the future. Well, guess what? All them other ones ain't impacting the future.
So what I
So
was
on the Trump side of things, what we're saying is Trump goes out and he tells his people, yo, I'm pro-gun. I'm pro-abortion. He gets in front of people, I'm pro-gun. I'm pro-abortion. He gets in front of other Republicans, I am pro-gun and I am pro-abortion. You know what Biden says? I'm gonna get you some student loan money. I got y'all. He don't get it, he disappears. I'm out of here. You know what? I got something for you. If you 75 years old and you've been paying all your life and you live in a $30,000 house today, I'm gonna waive your student loans because you only owe about $3,000. That's what we get from him.
so so what I would say here is the difference is that
Just say I'm right. Just say it.
no, you're not right. Is that when people, because this is getting ready to go into no, because what's going to happen is that I'm gonna say what I'm getting ready to say, and
no,
then
because
your
you,
response,
no, because you're gonna pick up the goalpost and you're gonna move it.
I'm not gonna move it.
All I'm saying is one guy says, "Hey, I'm gonna do it," and
right,
and even here's the thing. Here's the other
promises
part.
made, promises kept. That's basically what you're saying.
Or attempted to be kept.
Okay, I got you. Promises made, promises kept, promises made, promise attempted, but something happened. Right, I got you. I'm gonna say what I'm getting ready to say, and then your response is gonna be, Vari, nobody pays attention to this shit like you. The everyday person doesn't understand. All they know is this happened. And the reason I'm saying that is that a lot of these promises that Trump made and that he quote unquote kept were not kept. He just said that he did. Right? Trump tells people, I'm going to change the healthcare system. We're going to get rid of Obamacare and we're going to put in a new system that's going to be fantastic. And then he goes in the Oval Office and he signs an order saying he's replacing Obamacare. And that's not what he signed. What he did sign was an order telling his Health and Human Services Department to, hey, start looking into how we can get rid of Obamacare. As if the HHS has fiat power and can just get rid of it on their own without going through Congress. You see what I'm saying? And then he holds up the order saying, look, I just signed this thing, promises made, promises kept. And then people go out and say, this guy got rid of Obamacare. And he did this on countless policies where he said, I'm going to do X. He never did it. And he signed a piece of paper that just tells a department in the government, hey, look into this. And then he moves on.
Look at this goalpost, EJ. You see where it's at now? We can't even see it. He did 100-yard dash with the goalpost. We can't even see it no more.
Oh my God!
We can't even see it no more.
I get his logic, man, but at the end of the day, at the base and the core of what needs to be done for the people of this nation, that you challenged on a Black platform, you challenged Black people in front of millions of people in American syndicated radio in the morning. You said, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. And the reality is, you're one of the presidents.
And you sent your vice out. You sent your vice out. Oh, I'm picking a Black woman as my vice, and then you take her and you use her as a pawn and put her on every single Black media outlet and Chuck Taylor's shucking and jiving to go get your votes. And guess what? We ain't seen her. We ain't seen her.
And the reality is, he's done the least for Black people in the shortest amount of time. You haven't funded our schools. You haven't funded the HBCUs. You haven't bailed us out as a people. Statistically, Black and brown people suffer the most from student loan debt, and you haven't done it.
Well, EJ, he did send crack pipes.
So
we wouldn't transmit disease. He sent us our own crack pipes. Look at that.
Let me ask you guys.
You want to get high? Use your own syringe from me. I got you guys.
Let me ask you guys this question. I want you to think back in your memory bank here, in your brain housing group, right? And tell me what it is that you guys remember Mike Pence, Joe Biden, Al Gore, Dick Cheney doing for folks.
Well, more recently, Joe Biden, when Asian people were getting attacked.
No, not Asian people. No. Don't change the question.
You didn't ask me about people. You said, what do we remember them doing? I'm telling you, Joe Biden.
The reason I said Biden is because Joe Biden was vice president to Obama. Everybody I named was
talking about when he's vice president. I'm not talking about I'm not talking
But
about
that's
vice president.
but the
But
point I'm making is
again,
that you guys
I
keep
al-
raising this thing about
well, here's the
Kamala
thing.
Harris.
I
And I'm
But
also
saying,
which wait, but
I
which one of
also
these
don't
vice
remember
president?
Joe. I also don't remember Joe saying. I also don't remember Joe leaning on the black vote and going out there and saying, "Hey, I'm an AK from Howard. No, you got to vote for me." I also don't remember him doing that either.
so EJ, let me ask you this: how did we get Kamala Harris as our VP?
Because she's a black woman, and
No,
black people
that's not
thought
how
it
we
would
got
be.
Kamala. That's not how we got Kamala Harris.
I
The
don't
reason
know.
that we got Biden was not going to pick Kamala Harris. Eviscerated Biden during the campaign, and his number one political advisor is Jill Biden, right? Jill Biden lives by a philosophy of God forgives, I don't. And she was pissed at Kamala Harris for the way that she fucking roasted him during the debates and shit like that. And then after George Floyd happened, people like Charlemagne and Roland Martin and other very black influential folks started saying the vice had to be black.
For sure.
That was it.
That's fine.
And that's how
fine.
Kamala got. So it's not like Biden was like, "Yo, I gotta go pick Kamala." He was probably
No,
going to
no,
pick
no.
somebody like Amy Klobuchar or Pete Buttigieg.
I
or
get
something.
you, but again, he's also the guy with the black vice to say that if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
He said
then
that. I'm not trying to take that away. I'm making a different.
But you asked
Yeah.
about Pence, you asked about Biden, and who was the other one you asked about?
Cheney, Al Gore,
Cheney. That's fine. That's fine. So my response to you would be
Dan Quayle. What do
Tell me,
What do you remember them doing?
But which one of those were dangled in front of the world as a carrot? Because Kamala was dangled in front of the world as a carrot. Hey, look at me, got a black woman. Check this out.
I went to
Look at me.
HBCU. I'm an AKA.
She went to HBCU. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I got another black woman for you. Look at Ketanji Brown dangling the carrot. Dangling the carrot. Well, tell me what SCOTUS has done for us.
Meanwhile, we're getting slaughtered in churches and supermarkets, and then Asian folks due to the COVID virus, get a ramp of
they get beat up
of hate crimes, which we are against, and we believe that should have been implemented. But after centuries of being slaves to this nation, bought and sold, and all of this shit, we can't even get the George Floyd bill to protect us from the people that's supposed to protect and serve us. And on top of that, we can't even get student loans. Well, goddamn, when are we ever going to get anything, Joe?
And if you ask the right person, you got a president funding genocide. Just saying. Not saying I agree with it. Not saying I'm against it. Not saying you agree or against it. But if you ask the right person, they will say that. All that just to say that this next election is going to be interesting. And I don't think we can be surprised at the outcome if it doesn't go the way we want it to. That's all I'm saying.
I think this next election will be very interesting. And we'll see what happens. I just, I hear everything that you guys are saying. I don't agree with all of it. And I said this a few pods ago. I said this a few pods ago, and I think it bears repeating now. Is that for me? Oh God!
Out of all of that, see, I'm the one that catches people's ears, guys, not you.
Oh my God! Yeah.
All the smart stuff.
I'm gonna have to have a conversation.
I appreciate you, VP, for letting us beat up on you on the Democratic side today.
I would say after.
Booted me from the pod. Let's not forget that.
But VP be acting like we not. She probably saw it. He act like we not gonna go out and vote for Joe Biden. He don't want to hear us out.
But no, but the thing is though is that I know that you two are still gonna go out and vote, right? EJ's vote doesn't necessarily matter as much as mine and yours does, and ours probably don't even matter that much anymore given the state of play where we live. But there are people who, for the things that you guys talked about today, are going to say, I'm just not going to vote, and, those people are, in my opinion, taking a very serious risk, and while there are things that should have gotten done, like student loans, again, I don't agree with student loan forgiveness except for an exercise in political power. But
he's an elitist, EJ. He don't got no debt, so he's
you know how many prostitutes? Never mind.
But
I don't know where he's going down. He's on his own on that one.
I was about to talk about economy, but never mind.
Yeah. Let's leave that one. But But I feel like if this thing doesn't go the way that it needs to go, that people are going to wake up in 2025 and 2026 and be in a different country than they thought they were in, and this shit is very dangerous, and you know we've had a lot of stability. Shit has been bad in this country for Black people for a long time, forever, basically. And while it's been bad, we can't argue that it hasn't gotten better, right? But if we lose our democracy, which we can under Trump, I don't know if we ever recover from that, because you look at other places that have lost their democracies and they haven't.
It's been better
We
that
ain't
we're not-
losing our democracy.
It's been better that we don't go outside and just get randomly hosed down and called nigger
Jesus
every
Christ.
day, but it still happens. It's just, and it happens for the boys in blue and all of that shit. And we
You know what?
still, can't get George Floyd bill passed.
I will say that there's been less public police shootings during and it's
that
and I
might
think
be-
it
that might be
yeah.
because we as a people got smarter.
We got smarter, but also to VP's point, every day we have a guy in office who's not splurting racist stuff. So I will say that.
Shout
I
out
will
to
say
him,
that.
even though
And tweeting and enabling the that type of behavior, because the tweets are dangerous. Them tweets is dangerous. They dangerous.
Steve.
What? I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that
That's
he
what
could
I'm
have.
talking about. I'm having a side conversation on text with my friend.
Oh, the crack pipes. It's true. And
it's all about the crack pipe.
And you need to stop lying to people. But all right. So with that, we're at 3 hours. We said we were going to be shorter this pod,
Yeah,
and
man.
we
I don't know what the
are.
hell.
Well, if you didn't kick me off the pod, you probably have been shorter.
We didn't kick you off. We put you in timeout. You went into shame spot.
VP, he kicks me off for saying I cut him off, and then goes a whole 20 minutes of cutting you off.
I didn't cut him off.
Oh
I didn't-
shit, you
I
did.
You weren't putting time out for cutting me off. You were putting time out for saying, "Shut up, shut up, shut up," because whatever you were
I don't think
drinking
it's a
was
shut
at
up.
its peak.
I don't think it's a shut up. I said I'm done with you. I'm
You
done.
said it like 4 times. VP, 3 hours. Let's hand it off to you. Let's save something for next time. We probably not even gonna be able to post this. We're just gonna have to get some clips.
We're gonna chop it up.
Yeah.
Well,
Where do you got to go? Where do you got to go?
They about to go to Vegas without us. That's where they about to do. They think we don't know.
Yeah,
We're about to
right.
crash that. Shout out
And
to my mom,
always
my mom
split
and
the
your
aces.
mom.
Always split the aces, ladies.
My mom, your mom, and VP's coworker or previous coworker for sticking it out this long.
Definitely. Hey,
And I'll hand it off to
hey, we definitely appreciate everybody for vibing with us on this extended episode of the Castworthy Podcast. Woo, who's on one today? But hey, as always, man, reach out to your people, make that phone call, let folks know you're thinking about them, let them know you care about them. New year, be a new you. It ain't just about going to the gym. For those who are still on that, we're still got time to get rid of that resolution. We're only 7 days in. But regardless, man, welcome to 2024, first pod of the year. We definitely appreciate you guys for rocking with us. You can find the podcast on all podcasting platforms by searching at Castworthy. You can also find us on any social media by searching at Castworthy on Instagram. It's at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, leave us a like, share, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it. Shannon Sharp's not the only person out here doing podcast content, so look out for you folks. But with that being said, man, last week of the NFL season, hopefully your team does well, as long as your team's goals don't conflict with mine. Other than that, man, we will see you guys on next week's episode of the Castworthy Podcast. Until then, we out. We love you. Peace.
You having an unnatural allegiance to losers does not like you.